All right, so it's now 5:33, and we're going to go ahead and open this committee of the whole meeting. Thank you all for joining us. This is a committee of the whole that has been scheduled to begin reviewing the departmental budgets for the fiscal year 2023 municipal budget. My name is Jesse Letterman. As of apparently 12 o'clock today, I'm the president of the Springfield City Council. And so I want to begin the meeting first and foremost by letting our participants and department heads know that we intend to continue forward with the budget process as scheduled and with no delay in continuing to review the departmental budgets and move towards ultimately our budget vote closer to, or later on this month, I should say. We have a number of departments scheduled for this evening, and so I think it probably makes sense, TJ, to begin just with yourself for a moment, and then we can move into the first department, which will be the fire department. So TJ will start, introduce everybody, and then go from there.
Okay, so on the call, we have Kira Hanlon, who's an analyst for me and A&F. We have Sean Pham, who is the police department's analyst and kind of grant person right now. We have Lisa Willis, who is the financial person at the police department. Madrana Murtik is an analyst in my office. Aaron Hand is an analyst in my office. Hold on. And I think that's it as far as staff. They're here to listen and take notes and make sure all the questions that get asked get answered if they're not answered tonight. And we're happy to kick it off and turn it over to the fire department as the first on the list. With me in the room, I have BJ Calvi, Deputy Hess, Dave Wells, and Erica Floyd. And Rebecca is on for dispatch as well. So the whole team's here, ready to give you a brief presentation and take questions.
Thank you so much, TJ. Commissioner Calvi, we'll start with you in the fire department.
Good evening, everyone. At the fire department this year, our budget consists of $25.5 million. This is a level service budget. This enables us to keep 8 engine companies, 4 ladder companies, the heavy rescue squad, and 2 chiefs in service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This $25.5 million funds 287 full-time positions. Of that, 279 are uniform positions and 8 are non-uniform support positions. 91% of the $25 million is allotted to payroll. So there's very little outside spending that takes place other than our payroll account. You know, it's the other stuff is maintenance for the trucks, fuel for the trucks, replacement turnout gear, and things that are consumables. And it's a good budget. It funds all of our core services, and we're able to maintain our high level of service to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. Does that conclude your presentation, or do you have other folks that would like to speak?
No, that's it for the fire department. I'll take any questions anybody has on the fire department part. Then I can do SEC after that.
Sounds good. Councilors, are there any questions for Commissioner Calvi relative to the fire department side? Councilor Whitfield.
I can't get to my hand on time here.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councilor.
My only question is, the adopted budget had 15 FTEs and now there's 16 recommended. What's the new position? Could you hear me, Councilor Letterman, Mr. President?
We can hear you, Councilor Whitfield. TJ, can you hear Councilor Whitfield?
I heard the question. We're looking for the answer right now.
Can you hear us, Councilor Whitfield?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, they heard you.
It was like a moment of silence, so I didn't know.
I think we just had a glitch there, but yes, TJ is looking for the new position.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Whitfield, I'm sorry, can you repeat the variance that you said?
Well, I see in FY 22 adopted budget that there was 15 FTEs and now in recommended FY 23, there's 16. So I was just wondering what that added position is.
For the fire department?
Yes. It might be just fire prevention.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
okay.
because
Well-
you actually have 4, I guess, 4 new positions. Okay.
Are you looking at the budget book, Counselor?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
so
Well,
I just look.
I'm sorry.
I just look at the, I guess I'm in the separate units of the department. So there's actually probably more than that.
Yeah, so in the fire department, the overall FTE increase was 3, and that was for 3 new academy firefighters.
3 firefighters, okay. If we could just get an update on new positions from each department, so I don't have to ask that every
Sure,
time. Okay, thank you.
sure.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Brown.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Calvi, quick question. I totally couldn't get the number that you gave. How many full-time firefighters do we have?
279 uniformed.
That's firefighter, okay, 279. What about administrative staff?
8 support staff, so 8 non-uniform, non-sworn.
A support. No, that's 279 for the firefighter. Does that include those that do the fire prevention?
That includes everybody who's a sworn member. So yes, that would include fire prevention.
Gotcha, okay. Now, Commissioner here says that you responded to 15,000 calls per year, including 500 fire incidents. Those 500 fire incidents, are they or is that considered a fire call? What's the
Council, I'm sorry, you were dropping in and out. I missed part of the question.
So it says that you responded to 15,000 calls. Out of those, you give that you responded to 500 fire incidents. Is that a
Yes.
structure fire? Is that
Those
a
are structure fires, car fires.
car fires? Okay. So the other 14,500, what are those?
Those can be EMS calls, calls for service, which include water leaks, gas leaks,
A plethora of things.
animal rescues, motor vehicle accidents.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So you actually, I see that you have a little bit of revenue. You have $552,000 in revenue, and that's mainly for the smoke detectors, quarterly inspections, so forth and so
That's
on.
first, yeah, smoke detectors, quarterly inspections, tank pulls, dumpster permits.
Mhm. So the actual percent change in the total budget is going to be 2.8 from 24,858 to 25,549. That includes the grants, right? The grants that we're going to be getting.
Yes.
That it does. Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Commissioner, for the work that you guys do. As far as your growth, do you find you guys are steadily growing as far as hiring? Or is it kind of, have you been affected by COVID and things?
Well, we've been keeping pace with attrition right now. So we're trying to keep on top of our hiring to make sure we stay up to our full complement. We've had, we just hired 10 new recruit firefighters that will be starting in the September Academy. And then we will begin the hiring process for another 10 or 12 for the December, January Academy.
Now, when you're doing the actual hiring, is there a certain, I know you guys use a scoring system and things, but is there any any consideration based on minorities in your hiring practice?
So right now we are on a 1-for-1 hiring practice. So
Okay.
we hire one minority candidate for one non-minority candidate. The hiring we've been doing lately is slanted probably 70-30 hiring of minorities over non-minorities.
Yeah.
We're actually right now a 60-40% majority minority department.
And one more question. Is there something do you guys have a cadet? I have people who are very interested in becoming firefighters, and they're finding, they apply, but they're finding it's like seem like it's a very long wait list. Is it that difficult to become a firefighter? Because it seems like it's kind of difficult. You get a lot of applicants.
Well, actually, the applicant pool is currently down.
Okay.
In years past, in the city of Springfield, you would have over 1,000 people take the firefighters exam, the firefighters entrance exam for civil service. The last time around, we barely broke 200 people claiming residency preference for the city.
Wow. Okay. And once again, I want to thank you, Commissioner, for all the work you guys do. You guys truly are heroes in my mind. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Are there any more questions for Commissioner Calvi on the fire budget? Seeing none, if there's no objection, we'll take centralized dispatch out of order, since Commissioner Calvi is also here to report on centralized dispatch. Commissioner Calvi?
All right, for the centralized dispatch, our budget for this year is $2.174 million. This enables us to keep 55 FTE full-time equivalent positions. 93% of the dispatch budget is allotted to payroll. In the dispatch center, we answer close to 400,000 calls per service a year for both the Springfield Fire Department and Springfield Police Department. We are the second busiest 911 call center in the state of Massachusetts that handles a single city. So Boston is number 1, we are number 2, and the Worcester Regional Center is number 3. So we're quite busy up there. A large portion of the SEC budget is offset by the state 911 grant that we receive, which offsets a large portion of the payroll for the 911 dispatch center. It's the 911 development grant, which we use to help offset our payroll to save the residents' tax-based money on this. And I'm happy to take any questions on dispatch.
Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. Councilors, are there any questions for the commissioner on the centralized dispatch?
Councilor Letterman.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have one question anyway. So Commissioner Calvi, I'm just curious, Worcester's a lot bigger than us by 30,000 people or so, but their call center is not as busy as ours. Our dispatch center, is it organized the same, or is it just, do we just have more calls for service than an average community has, or can you speak to that?
We have a large number of calls for service. Worcester's call center actually handles the city of Worcester, I believe, Shutesbury, and Leicester. So they handle more than one community, and we're still busier than they are.
Okay. And how has the merger of the call centers gone, or the one centralized call center? How's that gone? Is there issues with staffing it or anything like that?
The merger has gone very well. It's made our job practices much more effective. We've built out the center. It's a top-notch, state-of-the-art center up there that handles both fire and police dispatch. So I think it's smoothed the operation out quite a bit and has made us much more efficient as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner, so the actual increase is $143,000. Is that for OTPS? Can you refresh my memory what that is? Yes.
Commissioner, or Counselor, could you repeat that? You were very staticky and in and out. I heard
Sure.
something about the OTPS, but that was it.
Yeah. So the actual increase is 143,000 and some change, and that's under OTPS. That's other than personal services. Is that pretty much the salaries?
That would account for the raises.
That's software, interactive software, software went up in uniform costs and additional radio.
So
Okay,
that is accounted by the increased cost of software licenses, the increase in uniform cost, and an additional radios. Radios have become quite expensive. So like the portable radios that we carry are on average $8,000. So the radios in dispatch are more than that even. So that's what accounts for that increase.
I realize that we always got to be constantly replacing the equipment. So we have 55 full-time staff, 35 police, 11 fire dispatchers, 4 supervisors, and 5 administration personnel. And you want to add 1 more training officer, is that correct?
No, we're going to add a additional supervisor, I believe, is what we landed on with that. We're going to put a swing shift supervisor in to ensure that we have adequate coverage on all of our shifts for supervision.
Okay, very well. And so, okay. Now I see that now the centralized dispatch has been in function since 2021, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I can see that your budget for the emergency communication has been increased from 1.7 in 2021, $1.9 million in 22, and now you guys are proposing 2.1 in fiscal 2023. Would you say that it's working, Commissioner?
I would say it's working. That increase is for the supervision that we've put in place. There was never any supervisors on the dispatch force. We've increased supervision to ensure that we're continually turning out a high quality product.
Right. Okay. And when you buy product, you mean a good 911 center?
Product by service to the citizens. We want to make sure that we maintain a high quality product that we provide for the citizens of Springfield and the firefighters and police officers out in the field that we serve.
Now, Commissioner, this software that you mentioned, what are the capabilities of it? Like, you have somebody in the city of Springfield, as you're aware, we have a very large non-English speaking community. What ability do we have to translate? I do realize that we may or may not have dispatchers who may or may not speak a particular language. Are we relying on those dispatchers, or are we actually outsourcing the call?
So if we have several Spanish-speaking dispatchers and call takers. What happens if it's a language that we are not familiar with? Have an interpretive service that the city contracts with, that person will jump on the call with us and help interpret the call.
I'm sorry, you were static. Can you say that again?
So we have several call takers and dispatchers that are fluent in Spanish. If it is not a Spanish speaker on, or if it is a language other than Spanish, we have a contract with an agency that provides an interpreter for us. So then that person will get on the line with us and can interpret the call.
Okay, now with that contract, are we paying per call, or are we paying a fee a year? How are we paying that?
It's through the state 911.
That's through the state 911 system, so there's actually no cost for that for us.
Okay, so the state helps us with that. Okay, excellent. Very well. The reason I asked, Commissioner, I'm going to make 2 comments. I think your budget here is reasonable. However, I'm still gonna make two comments. One, I have heard that there has been some concerns with the coordination of the 911, but that's something that could be spoken more in depth at a public safety meeting. And also, Commissioner, I have to say to you, my good sir, yeah, by the way, is Tom Ash there? Anybody can answer me, is Tom Ash present or no?
No, the mayor's hearing isn't until tomorrow.
Okay, very well. So, Commissioner, I'm looking at your budget, and it looks reasonable to me. I'm not going to say otherwise, but I am going to make two comments. One, I have been asking for a tour of 911 center for 2 years now, my good sir, and I'm still waiting. Now, you and I have had.
Counselor, I'd like to speak to that right now.
Once I finish speaking, you may. At the
Okay.
time you told me about the COVID, then you say somehow we had a conversation and I asked you to the tour. I've been around long enough to know when I'm being taken for a ride, and that's something that is a feeling that I cannot shake right now. That might not be your intention, but that's how I feel right now. Actually not I, several councilors want a tour of the 911 center. I want to see what $2.1 million is buying us. Now, everything could be fine. I'm not looking for anything. We want to see what's going on. It's a public building, public money. I expect, not me, we expect a tour. I called Tomash asking for a call back. Nobody has called me back. Every time I bring this issue, you guys are blowing me off. And I totally had it.
Counselor, I'm highly insulted by that.
Commissioner and Councilor Davila, so we're here to talk about the budget. Councilor Davila, if you'd like to finish your statement. Give the
Yes,
commission
I will. So I will.
and then
Because it relates to the budget, because if you're asking us to pay money, to give you money, we are the funding source, we approve it, which I know you do, we expect a tour of the location. Thank you, Mr. President. Those are my words.
Thank you, Councilor.
Counselor, I'm just going to say that.
Commissioner Calvi, I appreciate, I'm going to give you a chance to respond.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First, Counselor, I'm highly insulted by that statement. I have talked to you on several occasions to try to offer you a tour. The last time I responded to you with an email that stated that that was the first day of the new hiring academy and to please give me several more dates. And I believe I sent that to other people that were on the email chain as well. And I have not heard back from you with several more days so we can try to schedule you in. Further, I have told you that we can only accommodate 1 or 2 people at a time for the tour. This is a critical infrastructure spot, and it is very noisy inside that center, and we cannot have 5 and 6 people at the time giving them a tour. So I'm happy to give tours. We're happy to give tours. We can only accommodate 1 or 2 people per tour due to the sensitive nature and the business that's taking place at that center. So to say that I'm gaslighting you or putting you off, I'm highly insulted by. I have sent you an email last week, as a matter of fact, that please send me days so we can schedule you a tour to come in. So to say that I'm blowing you off is not a fair representation. And the last time we had a tour set up, as I said, it was the first day of the new training academy. And I told you at that time that 1 or 2 people would be good. And you sent me an email back that you wanted to bring 5. We can't accommodate 5 people for a tour. I can accommodate 2 people maximum because of the noise that takes place inside that center. People need to be able to hear the calls taking place. They need to be able to hear the radios. And it's not fair to the people working there, and it is not fair to the people having the tour to have that many people in the room at the same time.
Thank you, Commissioner Calvi.
Mr. President, if I have a privilege, Commissioner, I do thank you for sharing your thoughts. Nevertheless, we do expect the tour. There's more to the story than you are saying, but I'm not getting into it now. Regardless, we expect the tour.
Counselor, that when you threatened me that if I didn't give you a tour, that you were going to make things difficult for me.
Excuse me, I am bringing
Respectfully, This is moving it. This is moving more into a personal conversation and as opposed to a conversation on budget. So, Councilor Davila,
Finish my point. Privilege. I understand what he's saying, but I do expect to hear from you for a tour. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. Are there any further questions for the commissioner relative to the centralized dispatch budget? Seeing none, Commissioner, I do have a question about the budget. I was wondering if you could provide for us an update on the turnover of the FTEs. I know in the past years, it's a challenging position. I know there's been a high turnover rate, not unique to Springfield, but just unique to the position itself. And I just wanted to know if you could provide us an update on how that has been going and if there's been any impact relative to OT in the department as a result of that.
Councilor Letterman, it ebbs and flows. We get caught up on attrition. We start making progress on that front, and then people will leave for different centers, different careers. So at this point, we've got a class of 6 in right now, which we started last Monday. And then we hope to hire 1 or 2 more after that. So we're making progress on it. I think the new centralized dispatch center has gone a long way for employee morale and job satisfaction. And we've actually slowed down our stop loss since we went to the new center. So my hope is we continue to move forward, that that's going to continue forward, and we'll even see less of a turnover in our FTEs as we move forward.
Thank you.
So we've also built out the career ladder for more job satisfaction in the center.
And are we still, I know previously too, we were highly competitive relative to other dispatch positions statewide. Are we keeping that up as well?
We're pretty competitive with wages. What hurts us is that other people will pay at or a little less than we're paying, but their call volume is a lot less.
Got it. Okay. Something to think about. Councilor Brown, go ahead. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
I had a quick question about the cameras. Is any of this to the cameras also? How's the cameras and dispatch working?
The cameras are for the crime analysis center at the police department, Counselor. We don't have anything to do with the cameras.
Well, I know I'm talking about when they're actually the actual coordination between you guys. I've been down to your place. I've toured your place. You guys, I don't know if you remember, I was down there. I looked at your place. So I've been down there. I know that as far as coordinating, even when the young lady had an incident where there was a kidnapping and things, you guys did a great job coordinating with dispatch and the cameras and things. Do you guys use any of that to aid in it? I'm just curious.
So if there's something like that needs aid from the cameras, the crime analysis center has radios in their center, and they come right on the air. That doesn't have to go through dispatch. So crime analysis goes live right on the air and takes out the middleman and can help coordinate units right from the crime analysis center.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Once again, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Any further questions for Commissioner Calvi on the centralized dispatch budget? Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner, and to your team. And
thank you.
On now to the police department, and I know Superintendent Clapper is with us. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank all the counselors, and it'll be me, and Lisa Willis is my budget director. She's also on, and of course TJ Plant has been helping me out greatly with my financial issues here. We have a $51.7 million budget, fully funded complement of sworn and civilian personnel. It's necessary for supplies and services required to meet our operational needs for the SPD. Critical equipment such as ballistic vests, portable radios to ensure officer safety for calls of service, support of ongoing initiatives such as the gaming enforcement unit, Metro Unit, Quebec Unit, Ordnance and K-9 Detective Bureau, all 3 C3 units, the new Firearms Investigative Unit, the Real-Time Crime Analysis Center, which is ongoing, I think Councilor Brown was referring to, the Traffic Division, and I now have a position for a settlement agreement implementation unit that deals specifically with the consent decree or settlement agreement by DOJ. Of the 51.7 personal services and the request, over about 40 million is salaries. And that's for a full complement of 598 FTEs. It includes 512 sworn and 86 civilian. For the sworn, you have 1 superintendent, 3 deputy chiefs, 11 captains, 20 lieutenants, 48 sergeants, 429 sworn officers. We did lose some civilian positions, and I will tell you that basically the problem with filling civilian positions is we don't hold a candle to some of the positions that are available in the private sectors when we're looking for clerks, secretaries, or some of our body-worn camera people. The private sector is definitely outpacing us. That fills our Quinn bill obligation of 3.1 million, overtime of 1.8 million, holiday of 940,000, court time of 650,000. It allows for 204,000 for the uniform allowance and a 68,000 for a shift differential. 236,000 is going towards training. Your training would include this time around, I believe the areas of importance to you are de-escalation, firearms and use of force, a late fall recruit class of 35, management and risk mitigation training, extra training for your firearms unit, the real-time crime analysis, emergency services, traffic, and lieutenant intense training that I had provided by Babson College, which everyone who attended it said it was definitely worth its weight and very necessary. The equipment, some equipment that's very important, it has to be replaced. Some of this has a timeline on it, so they have to be replaced, like the AED defibrillators, ballistic vests, taser replacements. The tasers need to be replaced every so often. The cartridges that go in them need to be replaced. And I did spend some money on another form of non-lethal weapon called the Bola Wrap system. I can explain if you want to. Motorola portable radios, as Commissioner Calvi said, they're expensive and they need replacement every so often. I have a lot of computer hardware for us. I have a lot of software programs. One of the newest software programs and licenses was in response to the DOJ settlement agreement. 300,000 allows scanning of records. We've outgrown 130 Pearl Street. You know, we have an issue at 130 Pearl Street. We're trying to make it as habitable and as pleasant to work there as I possibly can. So we're scanning a lot of the old records that we can to make space for new offices. I have an attorney fee now for it's my attorney is on retainer. I need an attorney besides the law department for everything that's coming up, every dealing with the AG's office, FBI, the settlement agreement, giving me advice on a lot of settlements and a lot of things that we're doing. The physical and psychiatric exams for prospective recruits are $74,000. They have to go through physicals and psychs before they can be considered to be a valuable recruit for us. Software, an additional square mile of ShotSpotter going into Indian Orchard. I think that community deserves it. They deserve some attention, so I'd like to get it out there. Social media investigation software for evidence tracking for court, and the continued cloud storage for the body-worn camera program. All of this is necessary. Currently, right now, counselors, we have 28 vacancies. They pop up more frequently than what I can plan for because people are leaving here quicker than what the 32-year 55 age retirement would justify. Last week, I lost a young officer. He's only been on the job 5 years to a fence company. So the issues I have obviously are the stigmatisms of the police work in general, the dangerousness of police work, what the profession is going through now, the settlement agreement, publicity. There's a lot of issues as to why officers are leaving quicker, and I can't recruit as well as I can. You got a class in now of 31. I tried for 50. So 31 should be graduating June 16th. That's included in my numbers. So I still have, even after they graduate, I got a 28 person shortfall on police officers. No new positions, just trying to hold steady, trying to work with this settlement agreement. And I'm very busy trying to work with post and all the requirements that the new legislation now has for me. If you're concerned with post, they're going to ask me to have everybody submitted whose last names begin with A through H by June 15th. There's a questionnaire they have to file. There's some questions I have to file regarding everybody that works for me. A through H with a department like maybe Munson, you maybe talk about 4 people. With Springfield, you're talking over 240. So we've been busy. That's the budget and a quick outline, and I would certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Superintendent Clapperud. Counselor Whitfield, followed by Counselor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions. So first comment is, you need your own lawyer, so does the city council. So I'm anxious to see if that was budgeted for us. I do understand why you need it. I just wanted to make that comment for finance team. Then secondly, you're doing the best you can in this climate. Are you doing anything to boost morale at all?
Yeah, Counselor, we are, and I've upgraded the uniforms, and we set up a peer-to-peer program for officer support. I've trained in-house because everything suggests that officers are more likely to talk to peers before they will seek counseling. So we got that up and running, and we put it on telestaff and let them know. And the building itself, I built a gym that should be ready in about a week or so, and I'm getting a lot of compliments on that. They finally have a place to work out. We put some real nice equipment in the old property room. We've gotten new furniture. We're putting new floors down. We're getting the cars in. I've got some specialty vehicles that they're enjoying, some what they call the trike defenders. I've opened up mounted patrol to some officers. That excites them, the ones that like it. And I've developed an awards committee. And what that is to give the officers ribbons that they can wear, display on their blouse, like some other police departments do, trying to get them excited about putting in for if they've had commendations, if they've had a lifesaver. There's a life-saving award, the Purple Heart, Medal of Valor, and every 25 years of service, and then every 5 years after that in increments, there's a ribbon. So I'm hearing back that the officers are very excited about that. So yes, ma'am, in answer to your question, I certainly am.
Okay, great. Is there anything in the budget for the police commission? Because I've been getting calls that they don't have support. So did we add anything to the budget, TJ, for the police commission?
We have not. We were in the finalizing our budget, and I believe City Solicitor Payne and we are committed to funding what the police commission needs. We gave them the 5 laptops as soon as they asked. So we're happy to entertain their requests, like a budget request for anything else, and fund what they need.
So what you gave them when they asked?
We did not. I have not received any requests other than laptops in which we provided. And if there's other things that the commission feels they need, they can submit the request, and we'll take a look at it. And I'm happy to look at it.
One thing that they requested was space to meet regularly. What space do they currently have, or if they needed to do any type of work?
So Superintendent, I don't have an answer to that one. I don't know if you have an answer or if the law department has provided them space.
Well, I tell you, we gave them, they can go to City Hall in that room that you're sitting in, TJ. They know how to reserve it. They can come to 130 Pearl Street, the boardroom. I gave them IDs and access, and they seem to like going to Page Boulevard, and their IDs have been granted so that they can access that.
Okay, so they just need to submit a budget request. Is there a turnaround time that they need that in by?
I mean, we can look at it over the course, since it's so new and we're still feeling our way through it, we can just kind of do it as ad hoc as they need it. We'll take up the request, but if they have formal requests, they can absolutely submit it any time and we'll look at it.
Okay, has there been, Commissioner, has there been any changes to the civil service exam that you know of, or any talk about it?
Not that I know of, Counselor. The civil service exam is still offered. Now it's yearly. That's the only change. It used to be like every 2 years, but now because police departments are kind of begging for help, they do offer that exam once a year now.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I always definitely want to thank you, Commissioner Clapproot, for your service and the work you do. I know it's very difficult. You know, my dad being a retired police captain, he served his our whole life. So I really, I am a cop kid, so I definitely have admiration. My thing is, I know that there's a lot of organizations that has to do with lost ones, as far as my community, with the unsolved murders. Is there any funding going for any of those? Because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people in my area that suffer from unsolved murders. Is there anything going?
Thanks, Counselor. Not specifically. I know that they will take information about any homicide or any crime in the DB at any time. There is some funding for the DA's office, their victim witness people that deal with some trauma that you may have if a murder is unsolved. But a lot of these, you know, and Captain Duda's good. He'll talk to anybody. If you want to, you know, they call him and they ask for an update, or can they talk to the detective who was the investigator. He'll sit down, and a lot of the issues are that we may know who did it and we can't prove who did it. You know, sometimes that's a difficult one. You're just not, you haven't some information that no one will testify to or no one will sign. So, but as far as budgetary monies for that, nothing that I'm aware of in the police department.
And just even with the actual mental health thing, I can assure you, a lot of you know, a lot of the Black and minority families who, you know, they're searching, and I do understand even with that.
Yeah.
I would just try to think of maybe putting something in place, maybe counseling also than just the actual captain, maybe like having something, because it's traumatic for them, you know, and it's, you know how it is. It's very traumatic. And a lot of times you know, it's like we might go on with our day-to-day life, but you know, it's like they're not. They're definitely, they're definitely aggressive as far as trying to solve the murder. And I know, as far as, is there anything you guys gonna do as far as being able to recruit? I know it's very difficult to get no one wants to be a police officer. Let's just be honest. No one wants to be a police officer. It's like a 4-letter word. What do you, is there anything you guys doing to get some, I mean, because, you know, there's high school students, there's people, you know, I know that can serve and protect. I mean, are you guys reaching out to some of these high schools? I mean, what are we doing?
We are big time. You know, I put Captain Martucci I have 9 cadet openings, and that's where we get a lot of our best cops. They go through the cadet program, and that was kind of drowning too. We weren't getting the applications. Well, Jeff went out and he joined up with the Quebec officers, and we got over 45 good applications, and they took the test, and we have a real good cadet list right now. They're into it. So we want to expand the cadet program, what they do. We want to make a brochure and tell you that you can go from bureau to bureau. You can ride with a traffic cop. We want to make it a little more exciting. I think the cadet program kind of had a stalemate where the young person just worked in records and you were a glorified clerk. Well, that's not going to attract the seniors in high school. So we're trying to start with the cadet program, and we'll go from there and see if we can entertain that type of a recruitment for when we have a civil service exam.
Okay, last thing before I go. As far as the actual police station itself, I believe just as being a cop kid and know what's going on, even the inside, you know, I do understand about protecting the shield and things. I would want to see if there could possibly be maybe allowing Blacks to start. And you see, I say allowing, it shouldn't say that. Let Blacks do a union in there. And I believe that it'll now, if they can create a union within the actual police station, I believe that it would help. So just keep that in mind. And once again, I want to thank you for your service, but that would help. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Braun. Councilor Hurst, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner, thank you for being here this evening. A couple questions piggybacking off of what Councilor Brown had stated. Do we have enough resources in your estimation allocated for the investigations of these unsolved homicides?
I think we do, Counselor. The only thing we may be missing is personnel to, I'm sorry, excuse me, personnel to actually keep looking at the cold case squads. Your DB is busy always with an active case or active robbery or active shooting. And if I were to ask for anything for the cold cases, it would be, more personnel to look into it. But I just don't have the officers. And a lot of times, again, it's not knowing who the suspect is, it's being able to prove it.
No, understood, but that actually is good to know. If it sounds like there might be a need for some additional personnel, if that is going to be a focus of the council and the city for that matter. So thank you for that. Also, the attorney that you have on retainer, why not in-house? What was the?
I don't need it that often. Yeah, Counselor, good question. I tell you, the reason was at the time is the law department was so busy, and if somebody called me and needed records or information on an officer or information on a case, I didn't always have access to the law department at the time I needed it. So Attorney Bill Fennell is on a retainer for me. It's like a part-time position. I'm sure TJ could tell you what his contract is. I don't know offhand, but I maybe need him to come in maybe once a week, if that, and look at records for me, documents. Should I sign this? What are the ramifications for this? What happens when we, take this action or don't hire this person? He kind of goes over everything for me. I think it saves the law department quite a bit, and he comes in very handy. He's been there for me for my depositions that I have to do, so I don't have to bother the law department. He's been on the Zoom calls with DOJ for me, so that he's helping me out in that respect too. I think it's just I don't need him full time, but he certainly has come in handy for me when I do need him on retainer.
Got it. I think the city council could benefit from that as well, as my colleague Councilor Woodfield said. So you answered who? How much does he make, and who does he work for? What Is it, does he work for a firm in the city?
TJ?
Council, I'll have to get a copy of his contract. I believe
Okay.
it's a contract with the law department, and he works out of the law department on behalf of the police department. But I'll get a copy of it and get it to you.
Okay, do we know what firm, by any chance, off the top of your head?
I wouldn't know the firm, but I'll have to double check. I don't even know if he's just an attorney practicing by himself or if he's part of a firm. So I'll have to get all that. For you.
Okay,
Yeah, he might have his own practice now, Justin, because he's an older, he used to be a prosecutor down at Superior Court, so he comes with a lot of knowledge, but he's older now, and I think he's got his own little practice with his daughter, and then helps me on retainer.
got it. And then I think this is more directed to TJ and not necessarily a question. I think one of the other issues that I've heard in my conversations with the police commission is that part of the reason why they can't just ask for things is that they don't know what to ask for. And so I think this police commission is as new to them as it is for everyone else. And if they don't have someone that they can look towards for guidance, then it's going to make it extremely difficult for them to know what it is that they need to ask of you financially. And so my recommendation would be to hire them a consultant who does this type of work and who is familiar with other police commissions around the country, so that they can actually have somebody who knows what it is that they are doing. You know, and it might assist them in terms of what it is that they need to be asking you all for, because, you know, their requests seem minimal. And for me, it seems like they should be asking for a lot more to do their jobs effectively. Two other questions, Mr. President, if you could just bear with me. Commissioner, are the officers paid enough? You know, when you look at their salaries in comparison to the Worcesters of the world and the Bostons of the world, are they paid enough? And when we start talking about, you know, the officers' morale, it would seem to me that one of the things that need to happen is that they ought to be paid enough, and I just don't know. Are they paid enough in your opinion, especially in comparison to some of these other size municipalities?
Yes, Council. We're very equitable to you know, the Worcesters and the we go to Providence, Rhode Island, or the Hartfords. They will tell you they're not paid enough. I will tell you it's comparable, and there's they're both in negotiations, and they're both hopeful that they get a nice package this time. They're both without a contract. So if the money from the city comes through on this contract, I think that would be a real good morale boost in exchange for what I'm asking them to do. And most of it is in part with this DOJ settlement. We have to change a few things, and they are both currently in negotiations.
Got it. And my final question is around the mental health that, you know, I believe Councilor Brown had handed upon. When I looked at the contract between the city of Springfield and BHN in terms of the responding to mental health crises in the city of Springfield, it seemed like that contract was unreasonably low. I think it tallied around like $15,000. And I guess, you know, my question to you is, on top of potentially looking at an unarmed response, which is being done in a variety of other cities as it relates to mental health, that would alleviate the police officers from having to respond to cases that they're just not trained to respond to. On top of looking into that, which it sounds like that hasn't gone anywhere, it would seem to me that at the very least, we ought to expand the contract between you and you all and BHN. And then even more importantly, making sure that BHN contracts with individuals who understand how to deal with populations of color. So is that contract still the same? I mean, are we still issuing only $15,000 between the police department and the BHNs of the world to help contract their services for mental health cases? Is that still correct? Maybe that's a TJ question.
TJ?
Counselor, what number did you, I didn't hear the number. Was it
I
58?
think it was like 15,000.
15.
The last time I looked at it.
No, that's,
Okay.
No, we have
That's
more
incorrect.
through our Hope, our City Hope grant, Hope CIT grant, and
Okay.
no, there's more there of what we're trying to do. And it's not just that. And we're having active conversations with BHN and with the Department of Mental Health about providing additional resources. So it's something that we have discussed internally at our level, but also with the state on a more robust response. So it's certainly something we're working on.
If you could delineate that for me in the budget and send that over to me in terms of what it is that we're investing in, as it pertains to mental health in conjunction with the police department, that would be helpful. And then we just also want to make sure that it's culturally competent, TJ. So just relying on the BHNs might not be enough. Thank you, Mr. President.
We're looking at a more robust program right now, but I will have my analysts pull together a breakdown of all the funding associated with it.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilor Hurst, if I could just add to TJ's, I wasn't sure of the contract, but we've been talking to DMH, John Barber, quite a bit. And I like the model that we're doing, which, I call it co-response. The grants will say no. Co-response is having the counselor in the cruiser with the officer. If I'm going to have the counselor in the cruiser with the officer, then I'm still tying up an officer for the mental health call. What we do now is the BHN workers, they have a portable radio. They've been very responsive. They have great radio etiquette. They go to the call along with a car. And if the call does not require the officer goes back into service. If the call doesn't need the BHN worker, they go back into service. If both want to be there, fine. If you need even more help, we'll send you more help. They're trying to, in one grant, they want me to go the other way and put the BHN worker. I think that's going the wrong way. You're right. There are some calls that you don't need the police. The BHN worker should be able to handle, but it's also a very dangerous, volatile call. And I think the way we do it, and the mayor and I have offered to pay for more BHN clinicians. I would love more clinicians. It's working out wonderful. But you know what the calls mostly are now are school, the kids in the public school system. We had a couple calls down at the Metro, at the MGM. I have officers there already, so they're there to help BHN should you need them, instead of tying up police calls. So that's where I am with BHN. I love the double response. It's really not a co-response. They both go. And if one's needed, fine.
Thank you, Mr.
Council, can I just have one more piece of the BHN piece now? I got some clarity. So right now we have a contract or a grant from DMH for 100,000 with 15,000 and change going to BHN. The conversations we're having now is that the model is that BHN will bill a third-party Medicare, Medicaid, third-party health insurance for our services. And that is not a model that's proven to work well or proving to work too well. So the conversation we're having now is, does the city pay for the clinician's salary to do our version of the co-response, which is making sure that they show up with the radio? And those are the ongoing conversations we're having right now.
Okay, I just would make sure that you look at this holistically, and if there are other models out there that have proven effective, that we at the very least give them a shot in conjunction with what it is that you're seeing is effective. We never know if something might be more or less effective until we actually try it. So thank you, TJ. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Superintendent. I do have a few questions for you, and we'll try to be as brief as possible. Just starting with this lawyer business, TJ, I know you're going to be sending the contract. Can you make sure that you send that to all of us, please, as to who is being used as a retainer? If you could be so kind, sir.
Counselor, I can answer the question. I just got an email from Lisa Willis It's William J. Fennell, PC, out of West Springfield. He has a $33,000 purchase order of a flat fee for $27.50 per month. To provide all the services that the superintendent needs.
And was that for 2022 or that's projected
That's
2020?
the current fiscal year.
Okay, and when did we start using this attorney?
Superintendent, how long has he been working to assist you?
2 years. This is his second year.
Okay. I'm sorry, and what's the name of the person again? If you could, please, TJ?
William Fennell.
William Fennell, got you. So, yeah, I just want to join my colleagues on this because although a superintendent, I do understand the need of a lawyer, and this may make sense to you that you keep somebody in retainer. I cannot sleep tonight without saying that a lawyer for the city council has always been very challenging for us, but that's a conversation for later. And it is my hope that we can resolve this sooner than later. I know in every budget hearing, we say we're going to hire people, and it seems like we are bleeding for the law department, and that's a critical department, which we need to maintain fully staffed. With that being said, Superintendent, just some quick question. I'm looking here at the budget, and you have on their funds revenue rentals. You're projecting $420,000. What is that? What's rentals?
That's the revenue that we're bringing in from the firing range that we rented to the state for $400,000 a year, plus harvesting the brass and harvesting the lead.
Right, I do remember, TJ, you mentioned that was going to be a goal for renting that also. I'm glad to see that's happening, and it seems like we are getting some money back from that, which it's good to see. It's actually 366,000. Excuse me, 366,000. Good. Now, Commissioner, two things. I want to focus on these two things. First, BHN. The crisis response. There is different school of thoughts here. What should we do? My understanding, correct me if I'm mistaken, Superintendent, is that although we have a $100,000 contract with BHN responds to the entire region. Is that correct?
You know, Counselor, I'm not exactly sure of BHN's boundaries and where they. BHN was picked actually by DMH to service Springfield and service part of this grant. So we have looked at other possibilities besides BHN. BHN is working out fine. They're just, some of the money that's available to them and me calls for the co-response that I'm really not in favor of.
No, I understand that. And as superintendent, as you know, I'm a public safety servant. And I have to say that with the model that we have, I've seen it in person, in real life. And so I share some of the concerns. However, I do have to say that there have been times in which our officers and other personnel have to sit on scene and wait for a BHN clinician to show up, thus tying up resources for a lengthy period of time. And I have asked, and my understanding is that because they have a large footprint. Now, Superintendent, I want people dedicated only to Springfield. I don't want people having, sharing Springfield, Holyoke, and surrounding towns. I want only people from Springfield to be in Springfield. Now, what is the answer to that, Superintendent? I don't know. Maybe we could bring in other agencies to add clinicians. I'm not even going to go into the area of BHN because I'm sure there's a lot of questions that we can have on that aspect. But my biggest issue right now, as I see it, Superintendent, is that sometimes we have a very lengthy scene time, and that's problematic for everybody tying resources. And so that's a conversation that I look forward to continue to have on this particular issue, because we need the resources to free up as possible. Now, Superintendent, let me ask you another. By the way, Superintendent, I want to compliment you and the guys and the officers for the outstanding job they did with those the raid in which they apprehended a gun manufacturer making the A3, AR-15, and ghost guns, which have brought forth. So before I go on, my compliments, excellent job, and it's something that it has been increased. So with that being said. The Shannon grant here, I see that you're projecting $1.2 million. If I'm not mistaken, we have used that for suppression before. Are we going to use part of that money to try to address the ghost gun issues that we're starting to see in the region in Springfield, or is that a whole different pot of money allocated? Because
my understanding, and TJ can chime in, I'm sure that the Shannon grant is for, well, we use it for suppression. There's an education part and another part of it, but we use it, it has to be gang activities and relations, and that's what we've been using it for, right, TJ?
That is correct.
Is there any kind of source, a funding source that we could hopefully identify to specifically address the ghost gun issue?
Not that I'm aware of, Counselor, no.
Okay.
We can certainly look to see if there are grants available for that purpose. I can have my team start looking as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, and I will encourage. I know it's easier said than done. I encourage that. I will encourage that because it's, as we know, it's a trending topic and something that we must get handled. But again, Commissioner, excuse me, Superintendent, my compliments for the good work. And that's it. That's all my questions, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Davila. Counselor Brown, followed by Counselor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner, I know as far as just like my colleague, Counselor Hurst, and my other counselor were speaking about BHN and things like that. I'm all in for all of that stuff. A lot of times I also think, in my belief, that we have to now, just like my colleague Counselor Hurst said, we have to be more holistic. I would want to see, I know we do the C3 and things like that. I would want to be a little bit, I want to be, and that's a fantastic program. I also would want to create things as far as if we can do maybe a annual sporting event for the different ages, and now bring back youth sports a little bit and have the police station and the mayor and everyone involved in the different areas. If you guys can go in 4 or 5, go out through the areas and have the different, youth tournaments. And I'm a football and basketball dad and coach. Like maybe have different tournaments that we can all sponsor. You do it with us, the city councilors, the police, and we have like big tournaments for the kids, throughout our areas, maybe once a year, because a lot of times they don't have things to do. And that, if you could commit to that, I'd love maybe me and our, my colleagues, if you guys would want to come in our areas and we can do events like that for them. Because I do want to do a flag football event. I know there's big.
Counselor Brown, I think we may have lost you.
Well, and I think that would help.
Counselor, I'm all for it, and you'll get my involvement with whatever you need. I need a little help in the organization part of it.
Okay.
The only thing I worry about flag football is don't get my cops hurt now. I'm short enough, so don't get it. We're involved in a kickball tournament coming up June 11th, so I'm all for it.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor Brown. Counselor Whitfield, followed by Counselor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to circle back. You said that you were not fond of the Cahoots program. Which program did you say you weren't fond of?
Co-response.
Oh,
It's just it's just the way BHN, some of their grants are worded, and Worcester has he called it a co-response. I call what we're doing co-response, which is the officer responds along with the BHN unit, and then we see who's needed, so that I'm not tying up an officer if they're not needed. Their idea of co-response is in the same car, and that wouldn't really do much for me in saving manpower.
gotcha. What about the other program that I sent that I think one of your sergeants took the wrong way in his response back?
You know, Counselor, I know reading about Cahoots, I really didn't have an opinion one way or the other. I'm all for anybody that can help me out with this mental health crisis. DMH is the one that sent BHN our way, and it was in response to qualifying for grant money.
Yeah, I think we were trying to put together a Springfield Community Crisis Response Team. And I sent a letter about it, and I guess it was taken the wrong way, but I think that if there's an opportunity to try something new and it's going to be funded by federal or state funds, that we should at least give it a try, you know, pilot a program. Yeah.
No, I agree. And the BHN and the calls and what we're doing now is new. And so far, so good. I just could use double the amount of clinicians they give me, but the officers now, they call them and utilize them. You can listen to the radio dispatchers, and it's once an hour. They're asking if BHN is in service. So we're getting there, but I'm open to any other program.
Okay, do they have like a 24/7 intervention team?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna send you this program again and see if we can, you know, at least have a discussion about it. And then
Sure.
my second topic was going back to the unsolved homicides.
Mhm.
Do you all work with other police agencies to try to solve the homicides?
Sure, if there's any lead or reason to go out of Springfield, yeah, absolutely. We call and talk to a lot of different departments, and they're in Springfield quite a bit too. We just helped Hartford make an arrest 3 days ago on one of their homicides. So the quick answer is yes.
And the only ones who could like offer rewards, is that just the families that can do that?
No, there's different, you know who does it and who has some programs is the DA's office.
Oh, they can offer like monetary rewards for unsolved homicides?
Yes, he's got an account for that.
Oh, I didn't know that. We'll be in touch. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Hurst.
Sorry, and I'll be brief, Mr. President. Commissioner, it sounds like based off the last thing that you said, that your officers are reaching out to clinicians or to BHN for clinicians, and they're not always available. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Counselor. A lot of calls turn into mental health that we didn't know started out as mental health, and they're asking if there's a clinician available. If there's not a clinician available, the officers are trained to do as best they can for the start, and they'll call AMR and they'll section 12 if need be. They'll do what they have to do, but a lot of times there's not a clinician available.
Yeah, so TJ, it just seems to me that we ought to make sure that the money is there to ensure that clinicians are available. Otherwise we're putting our officers in, potentially harm's way or in a position in which they need to do something that they might not be trained to do or are going to do it to the best of their ability. And that's not fair to them. So to the extent that we can invest in more clinicians and certainly more diverse clinicians, we ought to do that, it seems to me. TJ, just going back to your attorney, or to the commissioner's attorney, that we retain that attorney through an RFP process. Is that accurate?
Not usually. Lawyers that are on retainer can be appointed by the law department without having to go out to 30B procurement rules based upon their expertise.
So was this one appointed by the law department?
It was March 2021, I believe they started, so I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't really intimately involved with the police department's budget as I have been the last year, so I would have to double check.
So I guess my issue is that if it's not through an RFP process, then why we're retaining a West Springfield attorney when I know there are hundreds, if not thousands of attorneys here in the city of Springfield is beyond me. And so I definitely would like a little bit more information as to what this individual's specialty is. And maybe that might help explain why it is that we retain somebody from West Springfield. So if you could just get me that information at some point in time prior to us voting on the budget, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Seeing no further questions, I just have one question before we move on. Superintendent.
Whoa.
Oh, Tim, do you have a question? I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't see your hand.
I'm sorry, I might have lowered it. I had it up before. I don't know if it went away.
Go ahead, Councilor Allen.
Oh, thanks, Mr. President. 3 topics, but just high-level questions on these topics. One is the Quebec program. Cheryl, what is the status of the Quebec program?
The Quebec program counselors in full swing. There's 17 Quebec officers fully trained up to all the standards and the new standards of DOJ and the new standards of our MOU. It comes out of the school department budget for the officers. Every position right now is full.
Okay, thank you. Second question, how is it working out at the Page Boulevard facility with just in general, how's the training and, how's that working out as a place that good things happen?
Yeah.
And how's it working out financially? Do we have the other lease in there and stuff?
Counselor, it's totally awesome. Talk about picking up morale. That training facility is second to none in New England, and visiting departments that come in there comment about it all the time. It's constantly being used, whether it's not Springfield officers or Springfield in-service training. Through that agreement with EOPS, other departments are coming in and using the facility. There's 3 ranges, so we have people in there all the time. The IIU part of that building is great. It allows for security and people to go in and out of IIU without coming to 130 Pearl Street. There's a big training classroom in the range facility that we've been using 2 or 3 times a week. So the facility is tremendous. We are starting to get the finances back on that, whether it's through the deal with EOPS or as different departments are looking to come in. And we certainly are through the brass and the lead that we're collecting to be recycled.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, great. Thank you. And the third question is, when we invested in body cameras, it was like $5 million and to buy them and to set up an infrastructure and all that. And I just wonder if you could give a status on how that's working out. They built not just the cost, there's a lot of sunk cost on that, but how's it working out in terms of its effectiveness and its usefulness with your solving crimes, et cetera?
The body cameras, again, invaluable. When the officers first got them, it was a little bit of a reluctancy to be recording every time you went on a call. Now they will not go out if their body-worn camera is not functioning properly or charged properly. They know it's a lifesaver for them. and it's very accepting. It's just look at the last two shootings. You know, it provides you evidence that hey, don't take our word for it. Here's the body cam. It's been wonderful. It's been turning away citizens' complaints. There are people that have complained about the officers. You view the body worn camera. That's not the truth. So that in itself helps morale, because they're no longer being falsely accused if I have the actual recording of it. So it's been a godsend. It's solved crimes. It goes down to court. It's helped with prosecutions. It's helped officers with citizens' complaints, and it certainly has helped us in some of the major incidents.
And it sounds like the cultural change has taken place kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the computers when they first came, cops wanted to write everything down, and then now they won't go out without the computer. Now they won't go out with the body camera. So it's been wonderful, and all of our officers have them. There's 500 cameras out there. Every officer, whether you're plain clothes or uniform, wears one, and the officers are now making sure that they're charged up for even their overtime details. They're wearing them.
Excellent. Those are my three. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Superintendent, just quickly, does this fiscal year 23 budget include continued funding for the civilian coordinator of the Hub and Core program?
Yes, sir, it does.
Thank you. All right. Are there any further questions relative to the police department's budget? Seeing none, Superintendent, thanks to you and your team for being here. I just want to give councilors a check here. We're going to move on to our next department. We have finished our first 3 departments for the evening. We have a total of 13 departments on for this evening. So I just wanted to let folks know where we are at currently. And we are now going to move to the Parks Department with Director Sullivan.
Thank you, Council President. I know you're short on time, so I'll do parks and facilities in one swoop, and you can do the questions for both. I'm very proud of the budget being submitted to you all for passage. On the park side, the increases are for salary and wages, utility budget of electricity, natural gas. And I would like to point out our purchasing of locking in our pricing till 2005 has saved the city millions of dollars in potential costs that are now offset by locking in our prices to 2005 on natural gas and electricity. And I'm very proud that the mayor and TJ have found the resources to add $157,000 to the budget for our after school and evening gym program. And with COVID hopefully coming under control as far as knowing how to manage, I think it'll be a great fall to be able to open up 6 sites for evening gym programs this year. We are very busy with grants. We have $12 million in ongoing park improvement projects, some funded by the CPA program, some funded by state and federal grants, and some funded by community development block grant programs. And some current projects include Blunt Park, Loon Pond, Kennefic Park, Duggan Park, Marcia Roy, Calhoun, and the Upper Van Horn Dam study, and the completion of the Water Shops Pond Dam. So both high hazard dams now in the city have been secured and are now safe for our residents. On the facility side, we have our continued active program with the MSBA. The Sci-Tech window projects will be this year's summer project with MSBA. We've submitted under the core program for Harena, Milton Bradley, Rebecca Johnson, White Street, and Washington. Roof projects include Commerce, Indian Orchard, Sumner Avenue, Boland, Glenwood, and Rebecca Johnson. And under windows and doors, we've applied for Milton Bradley, Rebecca Johnson, Pottinger, and Harris. So we'll keep you updated as we hear back from MSBA on those. And then we have an active summer plan on our school, just update projects. We are funded for $3 million in improvements to school buildings across the district. So with that being said, we're very happy that we have a level funded budget and with that increase for the evening gym program, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Pat. We'll go to Councilor Brown and then we'll go to Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, Pat, I was thinking as far as even though gym opening up, I'm glad that you mentioned it. I would love to connect with you. I do coach you, so I do want to be able to be a part of it.
Great.
I want to just real quick, and that's my main thing. So if you can really make sure that I can be a part of that, I'd love to do it. I want to definitely make sure that I'm a part of that one. I want to commend you for the work that you've done in my area. I work as a chief of staff in the State House for State Rep Bud Williams, so I know the different things you have to negotiate to get funding. If you look at my area, you look at the different parks and the schools and the different things and the development, it looks completely different. And to me, honestly, you're the diamond in the rough. I remember a lot of times I've always been a person who worked behind the scene and the other person got the credit, and you're a humble servant. The mayor is lucky to have you. The city is lucky to have you. Your greatness, people really don't understand. I understand how you calculate things and try to get funding to make sure that projects happen. You do a fantastic job, and I commend you. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Counselor, for that. What we would like to do this fall is start a mentoring program. We did it back in the mid-90s. So we'll be reaching out to you to see if maybe you can become a mentor at one of our evening gym sites.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Thank you, Pat. We'll go to Councilor Whitfield and then Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pat, I do want to echo what Councilor Brown said. You are definitely a diamond. I don't know if you're in the rough. You've always been like a diamond, but thank you for all that you do to help get a lot of the programs going through COVID in the parks and helping out in those areas. I do have a question about the summer programs, because I went through the site and there was like a glitch in the system, and I've been getting a lot of complaints, Pat, about folks saying, well, we went on at 10 and now they're saying it's full. What do you suggest we say in those instances?
Well, I'm going to be following up with the mayor and TJ. So the system crashed, unfortunately, and with the COVID the way it is, that's why we did the online registration. Unfortunately, we only have enough room for about 150 kids, and we probably need room for another 150. So there would be a need for another $200,000 to serve those additional family requests. But I have recreation working on those numbers, and I'm going to be reaching out to the mayor and TJ about that, just to see if we can add 2 additional locations for the summer.
So,
but I can't make that promise tonight. So we would need more site location, because you know, again, we work very closely with our health department. We're trying to minimize 50 to 60 kids per site. So you figure we would need another 2 to 3 sites to do that. And my quick math today was that we would need about another 200,000 to do that. So, so I have to see if that's even a possibility.
So they wouldn't be.
And then the other issue we're finding, Counselor, we're having a lot of issues getting people to sign up to work jobs.
Yeah.
We're still short on lifeguards. We just got enough, I think, staff as of Friday for the summer rec programs for our current site. So I couldn't even make the guarantee I'd have enough staff if there was money available to increase to 3 additional sites. But we will send out a letter to those parents. We do apologize. And we're working with the IT department so that doesn't happen in the future. But I think the result would have been the same. We can only take so many kids, so unfortunately, they still would have gotten the no, but again, I haven't even had a chance to meet with the mayor and TJ on it yet.
Well, thank you for my yes. I got my 2 wins, so thank you for that.
I'm glad.
I went on the day before on the old site and they called me like that you're too early. So yeah, I made sure I was ready for the next day. I just wanted to say thank you for that. It was a great summer program last year. I'm so glad that you could offer it for free to who you can this year. Hopefully you can get the staffing numbers up to at least maybe half of the 200. How much are they getting paid currently?
They're getting that new minimum wage rate, and so I'll lean on TJ, but I think it's like $14.50 an hour is minimum wage. So it's a great pay.
Yeah, it's a great pay. Maybe a little bit more. We can get better help in, I guess. I don't know, but that was my only question. I just wanted to say keep up the good work on events and everything that you and Commissioner Colton Harris are always willing. And so definitely that's appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Hurst.
This is the budget for next year.
Thank you.
Money we need to provide all the services.
1 second, Councilor. I'm sorry, I got to mute somebody.
Yep.
Go ahead, Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Patrick. Good to see you, Pat.
Evening.
Some quick questions. Just looking at the budget here, I'm looking that we have for personal services, we're going from $5.3 million to 5.8. That's an increase of, or what is it? $400,000.
That's probably, if it's on the park side, Councilor, we moved from.
It's on our 10.
Yeah, we moved from outsourcing our golf management to in-house. So that it's not a net gain in the budget. It's actually, I think, a little bit of a budget savings. We moved it from professional services now to personal services. So it's just, you should see that decrease on the professional service side over to the personal service side. I believe that's the increase you're seeing.
I'm looking at page 10.5. It says fiscal year 5,319,000.
I'll ask if Carol, my house analyst, is on. Maybe she can help me answer that question.
But I get it. And then it says fiscal year 2023 recommended 5,887,000. That's over $400,000 increase. I'm just trying to figure out.
Right. It's because we moved it from other than personal services to personal services.
Councilor, we outsourced the golf course management and we brought it in-sourced to become city employees. So we had to shift the money from OTPS to salaries.
Oh, okay. Now I see the decrease. Okay, now it clicks. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And I gotta say, Councilor, I thank you for bringing that up. It's been very well received. Rounds are actually up for the month of April, and I'm getting rave reviews. We have rangers out on the course, and it's working out great. And again, we're giving city people city jobs, so it's all good.
Actually, Pat, you might be hinting to the answer to my next question. I was going to talk to you about the golf courses. I see here that in terms of the actual budget for the golf course, you're projecting 1.3 million for golf courses, and we're expecting a revenue of 1.9 million. So we're making money. We're making $600,000 roughly projected.
Yep, that's our goal. Again, TJ and the mayor have done a great job supporting us on improvements of the golf courses, and that's what they would like to see, so they can continue giving us money to make further improvements. As you know, we did the bunker restoration last year. TJ pumped some money in for the cart pass this past spring, And, you know, they were long overdue for improvements, and we're very grateful for the additional improvements, but you know, they should be self-supporting. It shouldn't be on the taxpayer to support that entity, and it's great that it's being supported by the fees.
Now, Pat, are we going to see some sort of is this increase of $600,000? They're going to be increasing in players, or does that factor in?
No, the answer is the number for FY21 was 1.8 million, 819,000. We decreased that during FY21 due to lower number of rounds being played due to COVID, and then we increased it back to 1.9 based on historical. So we're typically at 1.7, 1.8 or so a year in revenue on a usual year. So we brought that back up to pre-pandemic levels.
Okay, so we're not expecting to see any kind of fee increase for the golfers?
No, right now.
We had a moderate increase this year. We did go up $1 this year, and we're still $1 to $2 below the other area courses with our increase. Gas has gone up, fertilizer, all of our expenses have gone up, and so we, again, working with finance, this is a way to balance those numbers, so we're not coming in for a financial transfer later.
Yeah, got you. All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much. That's your work. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate the questions.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hurst, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Pat, thank you for the great work that you always do. Just piggybacking off of Councilor Davila, 600,000. So is that based off of what were we paying out to those independent contractors when we were giving them businesses? I mean, we were giving them the golf fees or the management fees, whatever we were giving them. What was it? Was it more than $600,000? Was it less than $600,000?
You got their linking revenue and the expense side. They're completely separate.
Okay.
The revenue has always been close to 1.9, with the exception of the COVID years, where we reduced the amount of revenue based upon the anticipated lack of rounds. The expense side is a good question. Is that it actually is a savings to insource, and Pat Sullivan can get the numbers, or we can get you the numbers. We actually realized a savings to do it from the outsourced model to being a city employee, and we have greater controls over it, so it's no longer an outside vendor doing it.
Got it. So why the change? You know, I mean, we've gone, I don't know how long with an outside vendor, and I know just recently we had an outside vendor that either resigned or was replaced. Why now? What was the impetus behind that?
Well, I can tell you, I've been with the department now for 36 years, and for 30 years, I've wanted to use this model. So I met with the mayor and TJ in early January, and again, just with budget increases and cost increase, I showed them the numbers, and I said, we can probably save $50,000 to $75,000 a year by going in-house, and every dollar counts. And they agreed, and they let the department move forward with an in-house model, and we hired in-house managers and rangers and starters, and it's working. Like I said, it's working out great.
Got it. And were all of these individuals out? I mean, were they already within the city when they were hired, or did you go out and hire anew? Are they completely new individuals, or did we hire any?
Word travel fast, so a lot of people that had been working there for starters and rangers in the past, signed up through our HR department for the jobs. Again, being that we are having a hard time finding people, these are seasonal, so some of them do live outside the city just because we needed the bodies, but we will, each year they will be laid off, and we'll look at that. So we will encourage more and more city residents to apply for the job. But all of our permanent management staff, fill the requirements of the city ordinance and so forth. So again, it's just, I think it's a great model, and we've had a first 2.5 months. It's working great, and why not Springfield first?
Got it. Patrick, can you send me a list of those permanent employees who we hired when you get an opportunity?
Yeah, basically, there's 4 permanents and the rest are seasonal. I'll check with HR. I don't know if there's HIPAA laws, so I just have to follow through HR on that.
Okay. Can't imagine that we can't get access to public employees.
Yeah,
but,
no.
Please just let me know. And then the other thing that I just wanted to bring to your attention, Valiet looked like I let Sydney know. Looked like everything was groomed except for the infield. Not 100% sure what happened there, but
what part of Valiet, Counselor?
The baseball field.
Okay,
where my son is playing baseball. So I don't know if she brought it to your attention, but if you could do that, that'd be excellent. And then the last thing are the gyms. Are you the one that is responsible? I'm hearing far too often that folks are having difficult access to our gyms, and that's a hot commodity.
School
that's
gyms
not you.
Department. Yep.
They go through the school department. Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mr. President. Much appreciated, and thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. What my colleague, Councilor Hurst, Councilor Whitfield was speaking on, what is the age requirement as far as the actual hiring? Just so
16 on up.
And you can't go younger than that?
No.
Okay. And when I was younger, I do remember I was a lifeguard. I worked at Barrows. It was a pool there.
Yes.
Great job. We had to go through licensing.
Yeah. We run 2 courses. We're going to add a 3rd one to the fall. But we did 2 in the spring. That's why we got to the numbers where we are. And again, TJ and the mayor increased those salaries.
But where did they do them? Is what because
I think Harena and Milton Bradley, I think, are our 2 training sites. But if you have people, Joe Federico does an awesome job, and he's licensed.
Maybe Acorn Street over there, if you can maybe, and then even the other the actual over in there, Carew over there, if you can maybe, because there's a lot of kids. I worked as, I worked, you hired me. I remember, you've always been good to me, but I believe that the actual training, it was a great job. We got paid like $15 an hour.
What we do, Counselor, we work right through the school counselor's office to get kids to sign up. So we work through all the high schools to make the students aware, and that's how we've gotten up to the numbers where we are. So Lydia Martinez was helping us with that program, and then we're actually meeting with Superintendent Work over the summer to get a new person to assist us with getting kids interested in signing up for these summer jobs.
Okay, and Pat,
we do it right with the guidance off.
And Pat, I know, it's not, this one is for, I have to ask about this thing. It's not for you. Pools. We took away so many swimming pools in the inner city. I mean, not even the inner city. I mean, can we now concentrate, TJ, about getting, when the mayor's office, we got to start thinking about, can we, and I don't want just little rinky dink swimming pools. I want swimming pools that have like spots where they can people can hang out and have fun. These are the things, if you create them, these are places that kids can go, people can go, and it alleviates the the violence and things that happen. We have no swimming pools. Can we
Well,
now?
we have 11 pools across the city, councilor, in buildings.
In my area,
Yeah,
and not you, Pat, not you, Pat.
Yeah.
In my area, we don't have swimming pools. I don't know if the kids
Well,
in
you
my
have
area.
Rebecca Johnson, and then you've Blunt Park, the state pool.
No, I'm talking about outdoor swimming pools.
Yeah, so Counselor, with the outdoor pools, it's a 6-week season. They're very, very expensive to operate. And right now, I don't even have enough guards, I don't think, this summer to open up 5 Mile Pond. So that's why we went to the model of having indoor pools and doing the splash pads. We have, 20 splash pads. And I understand your point.
It's not
They're
you,
just
Patrick.
they're just not sustainable to maintain and operate. They're budget busters.
I believe it's not you, Pat. I believe as a city, we need to invest in doing some outdoor pools, more of them. Just do them. I mean, if it's going to cost a lot of money, I want to spend some money on it. I know that's just my dream, Pat. It's not you. I'm just asking if we can start thinking about maybe doing do it right there in Magazine Park. I want a pool in Magazine Park with all the bells and whistles. Let's just ask the administration. I know it's not you, but I want to try to get maybe a couple more pools if we can, outdoor pools. Thank you, Pat. You know I love you. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you for the comments.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
I
Councilor.
think it's the first time TJ heard me say no to something, so.
DJ, he's killing me.
Are there any
Stop
further,
giving Patrick accolades. It only costs me money every time he gets accolades.
any further questions for Pat on facilities or parks? Councilor Davila, I think you were actually in the queue, but you put your hand down. Are you all set?
Yes, sir. I forgot to put my hand down almost.
No problem. Okay, Pat, I just had a quick question for you before we let you go. Relative to the forestry department, I know Alex has his hands full. How many folks do we have working on forestry right now?
I believe we're up to 9. We might have 1 opening currently, but we've got great crews. And just so you know, like we had a savings and a line item TJ just approved today to bring in the private contractor to do some removals and trimming on the street. So I think we've got the best practices worked out as far as in-source versus outsource, and it's a good mix of that.
I think, and that was actually what I was getting.
We would like to add, down the road, we would like to add a 3rd crew.
Okay.
But we're working with TJ on that for the timing of it.
I know that I hear from folks often about concerns relative to street trees. And I know in the past, we've sort of found ourselves spread a little thin in terms of the maintenance of street trees.
I think we got 250 street trees planted. They're still going in. We worked with TJ and Lindsay. We came up with a great model for stump grinding. We actually have they bought the new equipment, and we have a sheriff's program and a trainee on the stump grinder. I think we're up to 300 stumps ground in the past 6 months. So again, we work very closely with finance to find cost-effective ways to manage these issues.
What about the trimming of street trees?
Yeah, so again, you're going to see a lot happening over the past month. TJ just approved 200,000 today, and we had it in some professional service and personal service savings, and so we're going to get caught up in some trimming over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, and especially relative.
But that's why we would like to add that 3rd crew in down the road, because that they could just stay on trimming.
Especially relative to the street trees that are blocking street lights. That's another thing I hear a lot of. Is there a way we can prioritize those? We
do. So they should call 311. Just encourage your constituents to call 311 and report that. And then they get 311, get them over to Alex, and they are considered priority.
All right. Thank you, Pat. You got one more question.
Thank you.
Councilor Allen. So you're not off the hook yet. Go ahead, Councilor Allen.
Thank you. Hi, Pat. My questions are in the area of sustainability and climate change and the climate action plan. I know we had a sustainability coordinator at some point, Pat, and I'm not sure we have them anymore. And just wonder what the plan is there, and who manages the climate action plan? Is that you, or is that somewhere else?
Well, yeah, that person happened to resign, and to be honest, myself and again working through finance, we've been managing this right along, and we will be probably seeking to go out for a new job description. We're reevaluating that job description as we speak, but it's still between myself, Pete Krupsek, and John Kerrigan. We manage that plan. I like to think we do well. We constantly have energy savings. We're continuing to go after the grants. We're working now with the school department on a huge ESCO project. I don't know if it can be funded or not, just with the pricing that's coming in, but it's always on our minds of how we prepare and improve and be ready for climate change. We're planting more trees. We're doing energy savings. We're buying solar credits on our utility bills. So, and as you know, thank you for attending. We had the first kickoff on organic lawn care for our residents. So we're constantly managing and sharing information with our residents of what they can be doing as well.
Thanks. Just a couple follow-ups. Do we do any mass planting of trees? I know we do Regreen Springfield and we plant trees on lawns, but do we ever go plant like 500 trees in one area?
Well, not 500, but what we're doing in 2 years, the mayor has allocated $100,000 from CDBG. Actually, the third year, so that's 100,000 over 3 years, and in the north end with those plantings. And then Alex, we got the grant for $1 million tree planting. That would be considered a mass planting. I think to 800. So yeah, we have an active inventory, and we got a grant to inventory, so we know where we need the trees as well. So we probably did around $500,000 in tree planting over the past year between grants and CDBG.
Councilor Allen and Pat, I think you were both breaking up a little bit intermittently. Did you hear each other? And Councilor Allen, did that answer your question?
Excessive building going on in Springfield, which is probably good for the tax rate. And for some things, we have a lot of former vacant land being converted into housing. And there's some people who are not that happy about that, and other people who are. I'm just wondering if because it's such a building period, if we should look again at, what we can do in terms of planting, because we're losing a lot of trees because of that. And so anyway, just separately, I don't need to go any deeper on it here. I just want to sit down with you, Pat, on that,
Sure.
this summer.
I'll work with TJ on that number as well.
Thank you, Councilor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Any further questions for Pat on facilities and parks? Seeing none. Patrick, thank you so much. And we will move.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Pat.
Now go to the DPW.
Councilors, good evening. Want to present to you our budget for this year.
Lights, streets.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
For the DPW, we have a total of 136 employees, 80 in the general fund and 56 in the enterprise fund. We have two separate budgets, general fund and enterprise. For fiscal 22, our budget for the general fund was 11.1. Proposed for 23 is 11.9 million. And the enterprise fund was 10.8 for this year, and is proposed to go up to 12.4 for next year. And just to hit on a handful of items, within both budgets. In the general fund, we have a $350,000 increase in salaries. A lot of departments had their unions do new contracts. We were behind by 2 years, so it's essentially a 4% raise for next year. We are no longer able to offset funds through Chapter 90 on the state for salaries, so that's a $175,000. Gas and diesel, obviously 58,000, be able to get back up to the prices where we are now. We're paying in the mid $4 for both gas and diesel. We use about 50,000 gallons a month. So any increase in pricing, a year ago, we were probably in the low $2. So it's been a major increase throughout the year. We also have to pay additional funds for disposal of tires now. So that's about another 10,000. On the enterprise fund side, the same thing with salary increases. Excuse me, about 200,000. We collect trash at all the condos under contract for a vendor. Their new contract was an $11,000 increase. Our tipping fee for trash, for those of you who know, the incinerator at Bondi's Island is now closed. So we are disposing of our material at Bondi's Island. However, it is now a transfer station. We are paying, instead of $77 a ton, we are now paying $97 a ton. However, with that, we also have a contractual backstop that was put in place when we did the contract for this. So we are getting revenue that equals the difference between those two. So as a city, we are not having to pay more for trash. We are having to pay more on the expense side, but we have it taken care of on the revenue side. Tipping fee for recycling is $125,000 higher. We've also have an increase in revenue associated with that. Those two items are a pretty big increase because over the last 2 years, it was proposed to use CARES Act funds to offset the tipping fees, which we did for part of 20 and part of most of 21. However, in fiscal year 22, it was denied by the state. So hence the reason we had to move some money over the past few months. One of the other items that we're going to be facing this year is mattress disposal. We do about 3,000, we collect about 3,000 mattresses. Mattresses are now going to be required to be recycled. So they will have to be collected separately and will have to go to a recycling center. So we're guessing that's probably going to be a $25,000 item. And then also on the fuel side, extra $100,000 on the enterprise fund. Lastly, just to talk to you about tipping fees, I mentioned that our trash tipping fee will be $97. Recycling will be $125. Our bulk material is at $92. Electronic waste is at $900 a ton. CRTs, TVs, tubes, $700 a ton. And then our white goods, which are refrigerators, things like that, are $10 a piece. So what we're seeing the industry changing a little bit is that things are going to have to be separated a lot more in the future. And we may end up having to do a separate collection system for the mattress collection because it can't be intermingled with any of our other bulk material, but we're going to be working on that down the road. Some of our contracts that we did included a lot of stipends for our employees for different certifications that they now require as part of their jobs, vehicle inspections, hoisting licenses, CDLs, etc., traffic signal technicians. So all those have been included in the budget for the DPW. And at this point, as director, I'm happy with the budget that has been put forward for us. So at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Chris. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Davila. Councilor Brown, the floor is yours, but you are muted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield to Council Dahlia for a minute.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Chris. Chris, just a few questions. Would you mind just giving me the 30-second overview for those that are listening, the difference between the budgets between the DPW and the enterprise fund, the general fund and the enterprise fund budget?
Sure. The enterprise fund basically includes everything on the solid waste, recycling, yard waste, household hazardous waste. It was set up as an enterprise fund years and years ago when the trash fee went into action, simply because we are collecting revenue as part of that. So everything within the solid waste side of the DPW is its own budget, is tracked separately, and the operation sides, anything to do with roadway, storm drainage, roadway maintenance, traffic, is under the general fund.
I understand. Good. Now, how many mattresses did you say that we pick up a year?
Over 3,000.
That's a lot of mattresses, Chris.
Yes, it is.
A lot of mattresses. Okay. Now, Chris, I see that we have in the general fund, we have an increase of upwards of $800,000 total for the budget. Was that because of the gas, the increase? What attributes to $800,000 upwards in increase?
Yep, the main increases on the general fund side is a little bit over 350,000 of it has to do with salaries. From last year to this year, it's basically because of the new contract, it's a 2% raises, so it's basically 4%. We also used to offset some individuals in engineering through our Chapter 90 funds. The state has denied that moving forward, not just for Springfield, for everybody. So that was about 175,000. Gas and diesel is about 60,000 of that. And then one other item is our line painting that we do every year. That had to have been increased by 100,000 to make sure we're able to do the entire city. So those 4 or 5 items are basically what add up to about the $800,000.
Right, Chris, just to stay on the subject of gas, if I heard you correctly, you say that we spend 15,000 gallons of gas for the city. Does that include just DPW, or that includes fire and police?
That's the entire city.
The whole city.
That's all departments, and that includes police and fire.
And those that have a car from City Hall, correct?
Yes, any city vehicle. Correct. Any city vehicle that we have fobs for them, and that's for everything that goes on the city. That 50,000 has been pretty level. It's a pretty good number that we've used for a few years now. As far as our own vehicles, it popped up a little bit during COVID because we went to multiple vehicles, but that 50,000 is a pretty good number.
Right. Actually, that's a good leeway to my next question, Chris. With the gas increases, I know I paid for something on gas the other day. How are we going to cover the expected gas increases that are going to continue throughout the summer, given the summer, the increased demand, the geopolitical realities of the world? How are you planning to cover any potential difference?
Well, one of the things when we put the budget together for this year, we look at all the trends, the way that they're going. We look at the CPI of everything that's going on for fuel. So when we put our budget together for this year, we made sure for us, and that also carries through into the individual departments as well. But when we did everything with finance on putting the budget together for this, we wanted to make sure that we had enough money in there that unless gas prices really start to go crazy. But I think, if it remains and even a little increase, I think we should be all set for this fiscal year.
Okay, my last question, because I don't want to dominate all the time, but can you talk to me a little bit about the design improvement for Tiffany Street culvert with funding with MEMA and FEMA?
Yes, that is under design right now. We are going through the permitting phase on Tiffany Street in the area of Bremen Road.
Yeah.
The culvert itself underneath Tiffany is in perfect condition. No
Right.
problems with that. The issue that we had was the downstream side with some significant erosion of a large slope. So if you're standing in the road and you're looking downstream on the right-hand side, there's a slope that goes up to some homes which are a little farther away. And that is going to be reconstructed. Gabions, the stream is going to be reconstructed to get better flow. And the funding was provided by MEMA and FEMA. And we are anticipating probably in the next 2 to 3 months going out to bid for that.
Excellent. Now, my very last final question. How much are we spending for the sidewalk repairs?
Well, there's a couple different programs. Internally, we have our own sidewalk crew of 7 personnel that we do. That's for reconstruction where we're doing cement. We have a separate crew that is doing temporary repairs with asphalt. We just went out to bid, received bids back last week, where we are doing about $1.5 million worth of sidewalks throughout the city, starting in the next, probably within the next month, once the contract is all set. So between that program, we also get separate funds through CDBG to do locations throughout the city. And so throughout our program, internally of doing sidewalks and having the bid go out for sidewalks throughout the city, and as part of the CDBG program, it probably adds up to 300 or so locations throughout the city. An average location in the city costs about $5,000. So roughly, with the 1.5 million and with our program, it gets us, to 300, 325 locations throughout the city. We act on number 1, condition, and number 2, applications that are submitted by residents.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chris, I really want to emphasize as far as the different people, and you do a good job, but as far as the different people who I'm affiliated with in my walk in life, sometimes people are forgotten. A lot of the people who do the trash disposal and the actual work, I know even when have unions who negotiate that stuff. So I understand that. It's nothing, I hold against you. We have unions, everybody negotiate the things. Some of the people who I know, my regular constituents, I'm sure, Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Hurst, they can tell you, even Councilor Edwards, Councilor Govan, like some people were saying, we didn't get the money that we deserved. The actual individuals who do the work, when you say 300,000, I laugh at that. Is there any way we can try to do something creatively to support some of those individuals? And you guys do a good job. Don't get me wrong. It's a good career. It's a great career. And there's great benefits. Everything. I'm not discrediting that. But when we're talking about increases, please don't forget about them. I know it's very difficult when we're talking about the different calculations and things like that, but the individuals who I know, they have good careers. They, homes, families. So you guys do a great job. But when it came to some of these negotiations, as far as really supporting them, we have 300,000. We have to start thinking even more when it comes to them. We have to think more. But that's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Allen.
Hi, Chris. I just want to make sure you're all right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you something when you're done.
Chris, regarding the money that we're giving every year, I think 3 million or one something. Is there any chance that, are you contemplating, obviously it's not enough for us to get to the streets, to all the, I mean, I'll never get all the streets, but it just seems to me that we need more than that. I was talking to TJ, and there was some thought about, bonding sometime in the future for more paving to be done in private ways. And I know there's some private way thing on the agenda for next week. Could you just comment on, as the DPW director, on, do we need an input of, an injection of resources or money to get the, bonding for it or whatever, to get us to a different level of proficiency with our roads?
Thank you, Councilor. Yes, absolutely. In doing the math, if I wanted to do every street over between 20 and 25 years, I would need about $7 to $7.5 million every year. We get 3.6 from the state every year, and that number has not gone up in all the years that I've been with the city. It has never gone up. It's $200 million statewide, and it hasn't gone up. This year, we do, as a matter of fact, we're opening the bids tomorrow for our paving program that includes, actually this year, about $5.5 million. We have about $1.5 million in private ways. We have about $3 million in public ways. And then we have a bunch of little smaller things that we're doing around the city. I have been constantly trying to go after our delegation to up the amount of Chapter 90 money for us, number one, and for the state as in general. However, that hasn't been done. And I think I mentioned to you, as a matter of fact, when they did the supplemental budget for fiscal year 22 at the state level, Chapter 90 additional funds was actually voted down. We were given an additional 1.4 million, what they were calling winter road repairs, which is part of the bid that we are putting together that's opening up tomorrow. So we have that good list, and I know the mayor has talked about with TJ some additional funds of doing additional private way work. And those dollars and everything I've shared with a number of counselors, it's probably 30+ million just to address private ways in all ways, shapes, and forms. Some private ways are in very good condition that just need some minimal work, where others are dirt roads and need to be constructed from the top all the way down. So, we would be looking, upwards between $7 and $8 million over a period of time to address all of our needs. Hence the reason why some of these roads fall into some significant disrepair over the years.
Okay, we can talk more about that offline, but for this budget next year, it's the same 3.2 from the state.
Yeah, 3.6 is what we got for this current fiscal year. Well, for fiscal year 23. And every year there's always discussions. We want more, and then it never gets moved past that in the legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Chris, 2 things. I just want to thank you for being responsive when I send you some questions. You get back to me right away. But I didn't see the email that you were gonna send me about the civil service test and all that we spoke about. So I don't know if you sent it. If you did, can you resend it or send it?
Oh, for applying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll resend that to you.
Okay, thank you. And then
Yep.
my second my real question related to the budget is, Councilor Letterman and I had a joint meeting and we were talking about purchasing vehicles with the bond money. I don't know if we purchased FY23 vehicles with that bond money. Can you clarify that?
There was a bond, I think we did it in February for purchase of new vehicles. If I remember correctly, it was 7.1, 8.1, and that was between us and fire. Those vehicles are being ordered right now. There was discussion that we would be including additional funds in this year's budget and moving forward for additional purchases. Those funds were not included in this year's budget. So we're purchasing a whole bunch right now. And actually, we've kind of pushed that off a year for a couple different reasons. Number one, prices, and number two has been delivery of some of these vehicles. So we wanted to make sure that we push those out a little bit.
Well, that's good to hear, because I didn't want to have to cut it from you because you've been doing or requesting to cut it because you've been doing such an amazing job.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to make sure that was not included because, with property taxes going up 30%, we could use some more additional funds to offset that. So I just appreciate you, taking Councilor Letterman, my feedback and not including it. But I am glad that you got the bond to purchase the ones that you needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Any further questions for Chris and his team tonight on the DPW budget? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll go now so the following departments are all under the Division of Health and Human Services. So what I'd like to do is take Health and Human Services out of order and allow Commissioner Carlton Harris to speak on the core HHS budget, and then she can introduce her team to speak on the various division budgets. Does that work, Commissioner Carlton Harris?
Just a moment. Let me come off of camera. Let me go on camera. Okay, there I am. Good evening, counselors. Thank you very much for your indulging me. The Division of Health and Human Services had a year of adapting to change to serve the public and to adapt to respond to COVID-19. And I am extremely proud of the team and the work we've done. Many of our in-person services were shuttered. All of the departments in our division continue to serve the public. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our division stepped up in big ways to assist, everything from helping the public to sign up to get their vaccines. The Commonwealth had not yet implemented a call-in system. We created our own. Hundreds of Springfield residents were helped through the library department and the Department of Elder Affairs. Our Veterans Department continued to serve our veterans. They were able to get their checks and get their services, and we are very proud of that. TJO, I'm introducing you to Lori Swanson, who is the new executive director. If you have not met her, she is a part of TJO, has been for I think about 5 years, Lori, but you certainly can speak to that. We are very pleased that she was able to take on this position. She is a Springfield resident, and so we are just very happy to have Lori, and Lori will talk to you about TJO. In addition, when we needed to have help for our test kits, Elder Affairs and Libraries really stepped up, and I think everybody saw that. They were assuring our residents and then the city had access to test kits as well as services. And TJO, let me also say, has continued to work with the towns of Chicopee and Holyoke without interruption. Chicopee and Holyoke, as you know, are a part of the contract that the TJO has. They are a regional center and have done an excellent job of working with that. Health and Human Services, I think everyone probably is very aware internally of what we've done for the last 2 years. Our department has shifted our work and our mission to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Our work has severely been impacted by COVID-19. We've used individuals across the department who had other roles but stepped up to do contact tracing, stepped up to work with our residents. As you know, we have the VAX Force, we have the Youth VAX Force. So we have a group of individuals who are continuing to work with us. Our vaccination clinics, just the department's vaccination clinics immunize over 13,000 individuals in our city, and we distributed to date almost 300,000 home test kits. Our 330 Health Center, Health Services for the Homeless, we bought a mobile van in order to take our services into the community and the other counties that we serve. We continue to have pervasive needs as far as a department is concerned, but this budget does keep our services level. We functioned with critical staff shortages, not because of budget, but simply because we did not, when we would post a position, we've been having a very difficult time filling positions. If you look at our positions we're looking for now, 2 RN positions we need to have, and it is just very difficult to hire individuals into our clinical positions. The offices of racial equity and problem gambling have worked tirelessly to advance the work of their respective offices. Every Thursday for 2 years, we've had a meeting where we have worked with our outreach workers and others in order to do that work. The Office of Racial Equity is engaging our neighborhood councils and associations for community dialogue. The gambling program, Problem Gambling, is about to send out 50,000 mailers in Spanish and English and other languages to our residents. So the mission of our department has been very clear. Our job is to work with the public, and that goes across the entire division. The Department of Health and Human Services has 31.2 grant positions, 28.6 general fund positions. The 28.6 comes to $2,061,934, and our grants right now are $2,878,557 for a total of $4,940,491. There are grants that aren't included there. We have federal grants, and if you know anything about federal grants, they overlap. So it means that the federal grant year ends September 30th and starts again on October 1st. So some of the grants that we have, it may look like they've decreased, but I'll be coming to you shortly with a $690,000 grant and another one for our opioid response. So I will stop there. I think I have introduced my department and the individuals who I have the pleasure of working with. So I'm happy to answer questions about Health and Human Services, or I can simply move to TJO, which I believe is up next for budget presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions for the Commissioner on the core HHS budget? And then we'll go to TJ O'Connor, Elder Affairs, Veteran Services, and the library. So any questions on the core piece, and I'll go to Councilor Brown.
Yes. I was just, thank you, Mr. President. As far as the funding in itself, do you feel that it's enough or?
Well, thank you for that question, Councilor Brown. I will never tell you that I have enough money because I think that it is important to recognize that what we know is during this public health crisis, the work of public health has been front and center. And I think one of the things my colleagues in boards of health across the Commonwealth have witnessed is that none of us had all of the resources that we need, but we did get grants from the state. As I said, our health center, we got CARES funding. I'm going to be coming to you for opioid funding to approve opioid funding grant that I got. So do I have enough money? I would not say yes, but do I have money that I can operationalize my department effectively using grants and general fund? That answer would be yes.
Okay, and one last question. And it's gonna get you in trouble. I know hands are gonna raise. I do know I'm your favorite counselor. You do an excellent job. I know Counselor Whitfield, everybody gonna raise their hands. You are the epitome of excellence and one of my mentors. I wanna let you know that you do an excellent job. And I know that I'm your favorite. And I know all the counselors, President Letterman, I'm her favorite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that, Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. We all know who the favorite is, so I just had to come on and say it. And she doesn't have favorites. She loves us all. I just wanted to thank you for, continuously doing the work regarding COVID and keeping us informed and abreast, and always, like at every event, offering to have a table with either information or giving the COVID vaccine out to keep the community safe. And do you still have a lot of funding relative to COVID?
So the funding that I have for COVID, some was from the CARES Act, and that was for the health center. That was about $500,000. I do have funding that I'm going to ask to carry over because we weren't able to fill positions. We weren't able to fill the 2 nursing positions or epidemiologist position because folks did not apply for those positions, or if they did not want to transition into Springfield at that time. So I do have some funding that I'm going to ask the state to carry over into the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. I definitely appreciate everything that you do for the city of Springfield. You're a pleasure to work with, always helpful. And I just wanted to say that you got enough love to go around.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Seeing no further questions for the Commissioner on the core budget, we'll move to the TJ O'Connor Animal Control.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner Colton. I am happy to provide a level service budget to you tonight for your consideration. This budget reflects 18.5 employees. We have 6 openings right now at Thomas J. O'Connor. This budget ensures the public safety and the safety of animals for the city of Chicopee, Holyoke, and Springfield. The budget funds all of TJO's core services, including animal control, medical services, and the adoption center services, which include pet reclamation, adoptions, and owner surrenders. Beyond that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions on the TJO budget? Seeing none, I just want to thank you all for your department's assistance in enforcing the recently effective ban on retail sales of cats. We know it was a long pathway. I know Councilor Edwards was with us earlier on the hearing and invested quite a bit of time and energy into that. Not only as a important issue for animal welfare, but also as an important issue for, really consumer protection too. So we just want to give you your flowers on that, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's definitely something that was needed and in good time. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. We do have actually a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Davila and then Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. Would you be able to tell me how many animals we rescued in Springfield?
Yeah, so in the past year, we took in just over 3,200 animals. In that the majority of those animals come in through animal control. They're on 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Now, is that Springfield only, or is that?
That is Springfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke. So that covers all three of our service areas.
Okay, and would you be able to tell me Springfield specific?
We don't break it down into Springfield specifically.
Okay, so we serve Springfield, Chicopee, and Holyoke?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that being said, I know about maybe a year or 2 years ago, we were talking about upgrading and the contracts with those towns and cities, and we were charging the same for a long time. When is the next contract revision adjusting the prices for those contracts?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I've been in the position for just over 5 months, and that is certainly something that Commissioner Colton can jump in on, and something that surely will be reviewed in the next coming months. But it's been an ongoing issue that I know of. Commissioner Colton, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Yes, we do need to work on our contracts. COVID really did, and then there was an election in Chicopee. So we do have to work with the new mayors of those two cities, Holyoke and Chicopee, and negotiate a new contract. And I look forward to working with our law department and certainly with Lori to operationalize or make sure that we get those contracts in place. And that should happen in FY23.
Now, Commissioner, yourself or the director, would you be able to tell me how much we earn in revenue with those contracts?
Yeah.
How much we earn in revenue? I'm not sure. Is TJ still on?
So I've got that. So the city contracts, the revenue is just over $408,000.
Between Chicopee and Holyoke?
Yes, and that's $4.35 per capita.
I got you. Okay. And would you be able to tell me when was the last time we negotiated those contracts?
Can you answer that question? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I certainly can. The last time we negotiated our contracts, I believe, was in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been at least 3 years that we have not had a contract, a signed contract in place. But let me also say that Holyoke and Chicopee are paying their bills. And so the contract is not concrete, but certainly they are paying the per capita fee.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing ink to the, what does that say in the ink to the paper? Finalizing that. And thank you. You guys do an excellent job. And I just got to admit it, I'm a sucker for animals. So what they say, the way we treat those less fortunate, including animals, is how our society is going to be judged. Indeed. So thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilor.
God bless.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Allen.
And thank you for, I didn't get your first name.
It's Lori.
Lori, sorry. Thank you, Lori, for taking the responsibility of the place and for presenting to us tonight. My question is simply on staffing. I'm looking at the budget and it looks like you have staffing of 16, if I'm reading that right.
We have 18 and a half that are funded through the general fund, and we have one that is grant funded.
Okay.
That is grant funded.
And if I if I heard it right, there are 6 openings or 6.5 or something.
There are 6 openings right now.
So that is roughly 40% of your staff, or 33% anyway. How are you functioning, and how are you going to fill that?
I appreciate that question. It's a great question. We were fortunate that the city has provided 3 more positions, animal welfare specialists. Those are the core staff in the adoption center that handle daily operations. And so we are managing, and it surely is, especially as the weather gets warmer, it puts a burden on our staff. But we are hopeful that we will get we have some new applicants that are applying. But it is, when it comes down to working in animal welfare, it's a dangerous job. And if we're not fully staffed, we surely do run, it affects potentially employee safety, which is really important when we're dealing with dangerous animals. So we are working hard to try to fill those spots. But as you know, I can just keep echoing, what the people have said before, is that hiring right now is a challenge, and we're doing our best to fill those spots as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Are there any further questions for Lori? We will move now to our next department, which will be the Department of Elder Affairs, and Director Sandy Federico.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. DEA's FY23 budget is before you, and we are currently fully operational, which means all 4 of our senior centers are up and running. The budget that you have will keep our services maintained and functioning. We have a little over $1.5 million budget. $1 million of that is grants that support our funding, without which we would not be able to say that we could do much. We are currently waiting on our FY23 grantors. The only one we know definitely is our COA, which is our Council on Aging grant. They have funded us for the next 10 years. We are funded through FY33. Shine's grant this year is had to be renewed. It's out for bid. Greater Springfield Senior Services, which funds our outreach division, doesn't come up for renewal until October. Their fiscal year is different from ours, and the CSEP is in the same boat. We have not heard from them either. This is typically around the time of year that we start to hear from folks, and our anticipation is that we will be level service funded as we have in the past. We continue to program at all of our centers. Our numbers are down in terms of participation. Our older folks are not quite ready to come fully back. They've mentioned that to us on several occasions. The rise in COVID numbers are frightening to them. And I've said this before, the seniors are in a bit of a different position from most other folks with waiting out COVID. They don't have the luxury of time that some of our younger people do, just because of their age. And so they're not taking any chances. We are strategizing to see how we can make them feel comfortable, but we're certainly not forcing anyone to come out. That's basically it. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thanks so much, Sandy. We'll start with Councilor Allen.
Well, I did. That's a leftover. I may have a question for Sandy, but I didn't have one yet. So
then we will start with Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sandy, I want to thank you for everything you do. You do a fantastic job. I think a lot of people don't understand when it comes to the actual political field itself, that the seniors are the ones who truly are the blood and the bones of politics. They're the ones. I was just wondering if we can maybe start a movement to do something to eliminate property tax for the seniors. If something we can collect, I'd love to have you help. And I know some of my colleagues would love to try to do it. Is there something you think in the making you'd be interested in if we can eliminate property tax for some of our seniors?
I'm always willing to sit at the table with anyone that wants to do anything to assist the seniors, whether it's financially, emotionally, or physically, whatever. So yes, I would be very willing to sit down. I don't know. Obviously, we'd have to bring some other folks to the table beside ourselves, because when it comes to the pennies, I don't have that kind of say. But certainly, we can begin a discussion.
Thank you, Sandy. I thank you for what you do. And I really think we need to have a discussion about truly eliminating property taxes for some of the seniors who've paved their way, they own their homes, and then they lose their homes to property tax. But I know you're a fighter, and I want to commend you for your work, and that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Are there any further questions for Director Federico relative to the Elder Affairs budget for this year?
I do have one now, Jesse.
Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you. Sandy, I talked to TJ about the hot lunch program, which you had talked to me about during the year, and said that was the key program that really brings people back. I mean, not COVID notwithstanding. Let's assume that COVID is whatever COVID is, but that the meals program that we have, as good as it is, provided by Plaza, et cetera, but salads and sandwiches are not as appealing to people, particularly in the winter time. And a hot lunch program is good. TJ, I don't know if you're still on this call. He and I talked about this last week. And I just want to know if you could give me an update of what you think, whether you put that in your budget, where you think it is on your priority list to get that back.
Right now, the meals contract, I believe we just did an RFP on it, Counselor, to continue with what we have for right now. Our numbers are down. I don't know if bringing hot meals in at this point in time will bring the folks out.
Well, it's summertime now, but I mean.
Right. But moving forward, yes, I would love to see that reinstated at the center. Absolutely.
Is it contemplated in your budget? Did you put in any money for that, or?
When we met with the financial team and the mayor there, I did put it out for a discussion that I would like to revisit that option.
Okay, good. All right, then I'll keep talking to TJ and whatever. Or I'll call you later this week about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any further questions for Sandy Federico on the Elder Affairs budget? Seeing none, Sandy, thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Next, we will move to the Division of Veteran Services.
Good evening, council members and Commissioner Colton. This is Joe DeCaro. I'll be speaking on behalf of the department today. Mr. Belton was unable to attend. So our proposed budget for this year is just under 1.7 million. We are fully staffed, no need for any more employees. We did make a few cuts to some line items, but we don't see that being detrimental to our overall budget for the year. Seminars, I just want to touch on seminars and education and training. Luckily for our department, we are still able to do our training. So that's helping our department out as well. We don't have to worry about, sending folks out to the Cape or Leominster to conduct that training. And other than that, we're pretty much business as usual. I really have nothing further. I'm open to any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Deputy Director DeCaro. Are there any questions for Joe on the Veteran Services budget? We'll go to Councilor Brown.
I just want to say great job. Commend you for all your work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Joe, I have one question for you. This is Jesse Letterman. I just wanted to know if you could share, you don't need exact numbers at this time, but just about what levels of veterans coming in for benefit assistance we're seeing in the last year and how it might compare to recent years.
So that's a great question, actually. 2 years ago, I want to say it was in November of 2019, just before the pandemic, we had about 144 veterans on our Chapter 115 caseload. And over the last 2 years, that number has dropped down. It actually dropped down below 100, maybe about high 80s. We're back up to 108 now. We're not seeing the usual traffic that we were seeing pre-pandemic in our office. That doesn't necessarily mean that veterans aren't being helped. I think there was a lot of funding out there that was available to the citizens, through different grants and, stimulus packages and, stimulus money that the government was handing out. So that did place a lot of veterans over income for Chapter 115. And also my staff does work diligently. Some of the clients are not only below the poverty level and retired, some of them are actually in between jobs. And my staff and our department work diligently with other organizations within Springfield to find them employment and get them out, into the workforce. So that does help alleviate some of the, the pressure on the Chapter 115 benefits for us.
Thank you, Joe. Any further questions for Joe relative to this year's Veteran Services budget? Seeing none, Joe, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, council members.
And we'll go now to one of my favorite departments, the library department. And I know we have Molly Fogarty and Jean Canosa Albano on to present. Molly, are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Thank you.
And I cannot let it go without saying that my first job in local government was stacking books at the Mason Square Library, and Molly and Jean hired me to do it. So I appreciate you, and we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. And you did a very good job. We would take you back if you wanted to. We have openings.
I can still do the Dewey Decimal System in my sleep. I'm ready to go. I can put the books anywhere you need them.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you. The library department is really pleased with the budget that we're presenting to you tonight. Our recommended budget for fiscal 23 is $5,460,375, and that reflects an increase of $220,777. It's a level service budget. It includes all of our current positions to staff 9 locations. We are open for a total of 268 hours per week. So we really stretch our staff across the city. And this maintains all our services at all of our locations. And also our 24/7 e-library, which we put more resources in as a result of COVID. We have 84.1 FTEs in the general fund and 6.9 FTEs that are grant funded. And we meet all the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners standards for public libraries and state aid to public libraries funding requirements, which then for fiscal 23, we're planning to get close to $400,000 in state aid to public libraries. Our budget is, most of our services our increases in personal services is due to COLA raises for our unions and for non-bargaining. And we do have an increase in our OTPS, and that basically reflects increases in our security, cleaning contracts, delivery contract, library materials that we will be spending more to meet our standard. And we're really pleased that some of our grants that we received from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners designated ARPA funding. We have funding to continue those. One of our popular programs this year was we received 200 mobile hotspots, and the Mass Board of Library Commissioners paid for all the data costs. And we requested funding for 100 of them to continue. That ends September 30th. We requested 100 mobile hotspot data costs to be covered by the city, which is about $28,000. And the Library Foundation will cover the other 100 hotspots. So we'll be able to continue to provide that service. We're not only our program and outreach teams, we have adult literacy and lifelong learning, after school programming, services for teens, elementary programming and services, early literacy, community and civic engagement, workforce development, and customer experience. And all of these program and outreach teams not only are doing in-house programming, but as a result of the being closed for 17 months when we moved to virtual programs, that became very popular. And so we have a hybrid model of in-person programming and virtual programming continuing. We have close to about $1 million in non-general fund grants, including the state aid to public libraries, about $375,000 from our Library Foundation, and a variety of other grants, Mass Cultural Council, and some other federal grants. We did receive $50,000 to purchase an outreach van, so from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and we were hoping to have it on the road in time for the summer, but due to all the supply issues, we're still waiting for our outreach van. And we purchased 100 Chromebooks that we're loaning to the public in conjunction with mobile hotspots, because one of the things we became more and more clear during the time we were closed to the public and people, our patrons couldn't use our computers, was the huge digital divide here in Springfield. So we were trying to help that so people can access our virtual programs, can access our e-library where we're closed to the public, and also use, be able to apply for jobs, look for health information, and all other services. So we're really pleased with our budget, and we look forward to another great successful year. We did reopen the libraries in July. We opened the branches July of 2021, and then opened the central library in September of 2021. And it has been, it was a little slow coming back, but we're seeing more and more people. We're looking at our statistics, and so far we project about 350,000 items that will be borrowed, about 55,000 computer uses, and about 325,000 visitors. So people are coming back, and we look forward to launching our summer learning program in just a couple of weeks to really push and get more people in the libraries. And we have a great team, and are looking forward to another successful year. So I'm open to any questions that anyone has. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Are there any questions for Director Fogarty on the library budget? Seeing none, Molly, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I believe that that will conclude the HHS divisions. Commissioner Carlton Harris, thank you to you and your team. And we have two more agenda items, two more departments with us, our final two departments. We will first go to the planning department.
Good evening, counselors. There's two departments within the Development Services Division that are ending up the agenda this evening. I'll take the Office of Planning and Economic Development, and Steve will take the Building and Housing Code. So with the Office of Planning and Economic Development, the total budget is $1,437,596. That represents a 3.2% decrease. Primarily, the decrease is due to the consolidation of two positions into one position. And there were some tracking of non-personnel expenses to historic budgets that resulted in a minor decrease of $4,780. The position combination caused a budget savings of $42,150. We certainly have sufficient resources within this budget to continue with our contracting for services, and all 11 positions within the Office of Planning and Economic Development are filled. There's one that's waiting to be filled. The advertising just ended on it. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions relative to the planning department? Seeing none, Tim, I just have one question. I had heard, but I did not see it, that there was at least discussion, if not granting, of an additional position or funds relative to the historic preservation planner for the Historic Commission. Is that accurate, or what's going on with that? I know it's been talked about for many years, so yeah. Is there a development there?
There was a request as part of the budget presentation. We put forward a request for a historic planner in discussions with the mayor and TJ. That ultimately got wrapped into the Build Back Springfield program, and there'll be a historic planner added to that program. And we also have a contract for a historic planner to service the Historic Commission.
We can talk more about that offline. Any other questions for Tim? Tim, my next question is also sort of for you and the building department, but I see Councilor Davila's hand, so we're going to go to Councilor Davila first. Councilor Davila. Councilor Davila, I can see you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you. So we will come back to you once your connection clears up. Tim, are you prepared within the confines of this proposed budget to fully enforce the short-term rental ordinance in the coming fiscal year?
That is my understanding. The funding, this has been a long road in terms of securing the funding necessary to implement the ordinance. But Steve, can you address that more specifically?
Good evening, councilors. Yes, right now in the budget for FY23, we are including the clerical staff, the inspector, and right now we are looking at the cost of the actual software system. We're looking at, we're narrowed down to probably at least one company, and we're looking at another one that's an existing software company that we're using now in code enforcement called Excella. We're kind of taking a step back to see if Excella can actually match something that we've been looking at through a different company. But looks like we're getting very close if everything stays in place for the funding and we can acquire the software. It looks like we'll be moving forward with this year, as long as we can fill the positions.
What will be the other responsibilities of that clerical position and the inspector?
Well, actually, both those will be, as this gets ramped up, of course, having them in code enforcement would be a big plus for us to help us with our backlog. Currently, we're dealing with large backlogs in the code enforcement department on the building side, housing side, and zoning side because of our vacancies. So having an extra clerical staff there that would get cross-trained between housing, building, plumbing, electrical, and zoning to process permits, notices of violations, along with their work would be a a big plus for us.
Yeah, I have no problem with adding additional staff in planning and code. I think that we're sort of understaffed in planning and code and have been historically. I can't really imagine, given the numbers that we're aware of relative to the short-term rentals, that it will fill a 40-hour work week. So I sort of imagine that they will have other responsibilities, which again, I'm fine with. But the priority is to see that ordinance implemented in its entirety, especially because, you know, we not only did we work with neighborhoods relative to getting a strong ordinance on the books, but we also worked with operators who, you know, want to do the right thing. And, you know, I think, you know, given that we put this law in place, we owe it to them to have a very clear timeline going forward as to how it will be enforced. So I hope that we can work together to communicate with them so that they do not feel, those that are operating lawfully do not feel, you know, as if they haven't had the opportunity to comply. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I agree 100%. Having that person that can concentrate on that versus trying to dump even more of a workload on the existing clerical staff that can't keep up now is just an impossible task for them. So I appreciate the council's support on this.
All right. So going back to just as we did get a little convoluted there, but it was a question for both departments. We're still with Tim on planning. I see we have Councilor Davila, Councilor Whitfield, and Councilor Allen. So we're going to try Councilor Davila again. And if we don't have him, we'll go to Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila, are you able to speak?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Davila.
Yeah. I just wanted to, Tim, can you say it again about clerical consultant is going to be added to what, where?
We've had an on-call. We've had an on-call consulting contract with PVPC for a historic planner to assist the Historic Commission. We have added into the Build Back Springfield program because that program is focused on historic buildings and the adaptive reuse thereof. We have added a historic consultant again from PVPC to assist in that effort as well.
Is that going to be a full-time basis, or is that going to be
no? It's a consultant contract. It's not full-time.
As needed. Okay.
As needed.
Okay. And would you be able to say what would that cost be?
Oh, I don't have that right at my fingertips, but I can certainly get it to the counselors.
Yeah, would you mind?
Absolutely, happy to do that.
Thank you, because I'm sure we all know the historic houses here in Springfield is one of the strong suits. We got in my own neighborhood. In Forest Park, we have it on McKnight. We have some beautiful housing stock here, historic houses, and so we need to protect those. And it was just seems to me that this was a very wise investment, yielding hundreds of dollars on the penny, in my opinion. So thank you for.
The department thought it important enough to make the request, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we can have it on a full-time basis with the goal. But I think there's a good start. But thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Davila. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Allen.
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to say that, Tim, I appreciate your efforts when we asked you to advertise in some more of the local diverse newspaper. You said you would, and you kept your word. So I wanted to thank you for that. I hope you get more funding so you can advertise even more. When it comes to equity, I think that's important, but I also want to thank you for joining the Black and Brown Capital Asset meetings that I put together. You've been valuable. A lot of the programs that you're talking about funding, I actually have a new position that does just that. So I can't wait to bring those resources to that meeting. But I just want to say thank you for being willing to have the conversations, really listening. And even when it gets difficult, you still show up at time and time again. So I wanted to say that to you.
Well, thank you very much, Counselor. The dialogue is very important, and the information that's brought to the table has been enlightening for me as well.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor
Yeah, are we on the zoning and,
Headed there, we are headed there right now.
all right, my questions are more there. I'll give Tim a break.
Okay. Seeing no more questions for Tim, we will move to our final department for the evening, and that will be building and zoning with Commissioner Desola.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to make sure I was back on air. Everybody can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Building division, we're looking at level funding from FY 22 to 23. We're looking at a total request of $1,889,020. This is for 28 full-time employees. This does include our built-in cost of a 2% living adjustment for the non-bargaining and UPSI union that is in the building division and zoning division. The funding in this request includes the GPS monitoring of the vehicles for inspections, all of inspectional services. It actually includes the contractual obligations, which includes our uniforms, safety equipment, ongoing continuing education for the building inspectors, plumbing inspectors, electrical inspectors. There's a lot of large requirement with the state that's every 2 years we have to have 42 educational credits as a minimum. There is no major reductions in the budget, so it looks like we're sustaining level funding across the board. Housing division, the total request is for $1,143,220. This is to cover the 17 full-time employees. This does include a 2% cost of living adjustment for the non-bargaining and UPSI employees on that side. This does include, as we were speaking earlier, for a short-term rental ordinance, $13,000 for the software to help us administer the short-term rentals. Also includes a full-time clerical staff and full-time housing inspector to cover the extra duties. This actually will include, in our budget, we have the $110,000 for the Mayor's Clean City program, funding for all our contractual obligations on that side for uniforms and safety equipment, including the GPS units for the housing and zoning side. We're actually have a built-in increase for funding for our accounts on the cost of our municipal liens and recording fees. So as we look at the budget, there is no large reduction, pretty much a full across the board. Only increase is just what we're looking at for the short-term rental. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
I think Steve, we'll start with Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Steve. I've got I'm not finding the staffing numbers I was looking for in the budget book, so I'm sure you must know them.
Okay.
It seems to me that year in and year out, we are understaffed in code enforcement and zoning, that type of thing. Those areas, I can't tell sometimes the difference, between which is which. But if that's the case, I know it seems to be a chronic thing, and I didn't know if it's better now. Is it worse now? Are we still finding it hard to hire people, et cetera? And I know in my area, in East Forest Park particularly, I got more complaints lately. 2 today, about 8 about a week ago, and it feels to me like that there's more people are more sensitive to appearance now. We're outside again after the pandemic. People have a higher standard, or want a place to look better, or don't want their neighbors to not mow their lawn, or whatever it is. And I just wondered if you could give an update on how it's going in hiring, because it seems to me that this is one of the things that happens in this meeting every year, talking about code enforcement hiring. I'm not sure we ever catch up. And then I heard a rumor that Dave Cotter retired. So if you could just give me an update on that, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I'll start with the building division. You are correct. It's kind of like we've got a Jeep and we keep putting the wheels off it, and every time we go down the road, we feel like we get back up to full staff, the wheels come back off. It's been a chronic problem for years on the building inspector side because of the starting pay is low, and the pay to get them to up to a top step was close to almost a 10-year span. So we spend 3 years at least trying to train people, and we go through all the certification process, the education process, spend a lot of time, 2 guys in a car, and then we end up losing them because of the overall, the actual starting pay and the pay to get the length of time to get the top step. Currently, they are in contract right now, negotiations. We're looking at what we're trying to really target is if we can get rid of the lowest step and reduce the overall step on top and get it down to a reasonable so that we're competitive to the outside, so we're not losing so many trained inspectors to the local communities. Because what ends up happening is we end up training, put years investing in these inspectors and the money, and they get hired with the surrounding communities for more money. So we are working on that. I'm crossing my fingers we get into a good contract with the building inspectors. That could solve a lot of our problems with that. On the housing side's not as dramatic. We always have a halfway decent pool to pick from in the city. Even though we do have a turnover, it's a job that tends to have a lot of burnout because of your workload over there. And what happens is we start losing positions, people get burnt out. They end up having to cover 2-3 territories. But right now we are almost at full staff. We are short 1 building inspector over there, housing inspector over there right now. Currently they're under contract negotiations. I believe they're close to settling theirs, or they have settled it under UPSI. Your other question is Dave Carter, as of today, is retiring, turning a new chapter in his life. So we wish him the best of luck. He's been a great employee over the years of having him with me as a team member and my go-to guy to get a lot of stuff done over the years. So he's going to be severely missed.
Is he being replaced by someone? I'm assuming he was the manager of code enforcement. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was my deputy director and for the housing division. The job is currently posted. We've been doing it, looking at some of the people that I have put in for it. I believe the posting will be up at the end of this week, and we'll be making a decision if we have a qualified candidate or not.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Steve. Are there any additional questions for Steve relative to building zoning? Seeing none, Steve, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our department heads, counselors, and guests for your participation and patience on our first budget hearing tonight. We will be reconvening tomorrow evening at 5:30 to hear the remainder of the departments for fiscal year 23. And we'll look forward to seeing you all at that time. And at this time, we will now stand adjourned.